Okay, well, I think I'm live. I'm just going through the usual checks. In the past, I've forgotten to add myself to my own stream, and I've forgotten to click go live and whatnot. And I see my good friend, my old friend now at this stage, Big Dummy is what he calls himself, self-deprecatingly. So he says, hello, short for terminal extrapolations. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well too, Big Dummy. I should probably leave him, but he says, personally, I think there are ways to show yourself helping someone out as long as you know in your heart it is a selfless service. Well, he's already read ahead my description. I wanted to come on and be very curmudgeonly, as in cranky, as in bah humbug and Scroogey. And somehow when I go live, I'm not able to be as cantankerous as I'd like to be. It's a strange thing. There's Aura Lumen as well. I'm saying that right. I think I'm pronouncing it very decidedly Aura Lumen because I'm trying to not get tongue-tied over it. It says my mic sounds clipping. I'm going to turn it down, so I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit if I can. Bear with me for one moment. Sorry if there's any banging noises. Alright, no, it sounds clipping again, I'd say. It's just that I can see the volume levels here. I'm going to try another thing. I'm on a different computer here. That may be it now. That may be it. I've reduced it a bit. Let me know if it is sounding less clipping now, less over amplified. So I mean, if it's 5x5 normally, maybe it's something like 11x5, or maybe I've only got it down to 6x5 now. I'm going to reduce the mic volume even more. What about that? Does that sound a little bit normal? Okay, so that's 5x5. Let me know if it's 4x5 now. I might have turned it down too much. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Aura Lumen. And thank you, Big Dummy. So yeah, not that you need to know all the technical details, but I'm trying another machine here. So it's the first time I've used this particular computer. And I thought that it would have a faster processor and therefore I'd be able to maybe have a better chance of playing videos off another screen if I wanted to, without the whole thing sort of becoming very slow from my end, at least. Anyway, I better say hello properly. I see Dr. Crispy Johnson is there as well, and he says better now as well. So, maybe increase the volume a wee bit. Right, I'll do that. Get some kind of happy medium. That's now in the center. If that isn't, that's looking over amplified just based on the. Okay, now I think it might be all right. I think we might be all right. Just going by the slider volume here, and I'm just watching the sort of graphical representation of my voice around the icon that I've chosen. Okay, too low, says Aura Lumen. I think that's the thing. You see, there's a I don't know, it's 30-second or a minute delay. I'm going to do volume up on my mic and see how we're doing. And again, sorry for the unprofessionalism, and sorry if there's any clipping or banging noises. Dr. Crispy Johnson says, you sound like Pat Kenny now. That's not a compliment. Oh, no. Oh, boy. I'll proceed now on the basis that maybe I'm doing all right volume-wise. See, I think what may be happening is I've got a mic out rather than line out or something like that. Oh, boy. I probably should have done a trial one first. Yeah. Well, Dr. Crispy Johnson has just given me an icon, like laughing and sweat rolling off the forehead, So, yeah, I'll keep going for now anyway. I'm speaking to you on the evening of the new year of 2023. So it's Saturday, the 31st of December, 2022. And I hope you've had a tolerable Christmas. And I hope that we have a new year that is at least with, contains minimal anguish, let's say, assuming that there is going to be a new year, I suppose there will. Things will inexorably roll on. And probably shouldn't say it, but I was in the supermarket the other day, and I haven't learned, as you can hear, I haven't learned to keep my big trap shut just yet. And I can't help it sometimes, always. It's like when I was a kid, always seeing what I could get away with by what I could say, and what I could say maybe that might upset people, not exactly needle people, but just, I suppose, jar people's sensibilities. Howdy, Goku McDuck. He says, not sure how long I'll be in the chat. Well, before you leave the chat to do better things, yeah, I mean, one of the things I was going to say is like, there was a time where I would have liked to have pretended that I would have better things to do on a New Year's Eve, And Goku says, I miss being a kid too. I'm just opening a beer now. I would have liked to have pretended that I would have been at a wonderful party somewhere in some exotic place of the world, drinking something far more sophisticated than the cheap supermarket beer I'm drinking now, or I'm pouring for myself now. Maybe it's not supermarket beer, but it's, I won't name the brand, but it's traditionally cheap beer, although it is Dutch. And it tastes fine to me as long as it's relatively cold. And I suppose maybe as long as we keep our tastes relatively unsophisticated, that's going to do just fine. So, Big Dummy, I think, says cheers there. Just taking a bit of a sip of this beer now. Unfortunately, I've let it get a bit warm. But yeah, it's I don't have anything better to do this evening. And it's lucky for me that you guys, just for the moment, at least Goku McDuck, don't have anything better to do either. What I wanted to get into, though, and I probably will better do it without further delay, because, I mean, who knows, if I'm very efficient, I might get this done within 50 minutes or within the hour. American Patriot said, I enjoy your videos. I found you from Registream. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we first spoke either online in Registream, or what am I going to say, in the live conversation, or else in the live stream. And I think, well, I won't say your name, but I remember your name, all right. And I think you're younger than me. I think you're probably in your 20s, but you speak well for yourself. And I appreciate that you're here listening. So Goku says, no guest today. Well, I wanted to just do a quick one, and I wanted to only talk about one thing and try and stick to the topic at hand, charity, before the Christmas time would go by. So I figured, Christmas, New Year's, time enough to do that. And maybe next weekend, if he's available, I'll talk with him during the week. And I've been talking to him about, my guest who I've had on for the last 2 recorded and 1 live stream, JC, who is an ex Knights Templar in the Order of Knights Templar in the Masons, and he's now, for the last 15 years, I think, quite a ardent follower, I'll say, of the Orthodox Church of Russia, outside of Russia. So maybe that's what he's saying, no guest today. But another time, we haven't fallen out anyway. And what I wanted to talk about was charity, and maybe I don't know what I'll start with, because there was several places I wanted to start, and you got to start somewhere. Each of them would be equally fine. I think I'm gonna start with a clip from the 1990s, and it's from The Fast Show. A British TV series called The Fast Show. Anybody who is familiar with The Fast Show and remembers the 90s, Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse, they might be about to guess what I'm going to play. Smashie and Nicey. These guys, they used to take off sort of BBC radio DJs, and their inane patter. A bit like the same in the US, the way you have these wacky morning radio DJs, but it's always the inane patter and talking about what they did over the weekend, and the what is it? The sort of they like to humble brag about all the work they do for charity, but they don't like to talk about it. Do a lot of work for charity, mate. And I think people in the know knew who these characters were based on, and at least one of them would have been at least partially based on Jimmy Savile, or for whatever reason it's pronounced. Jimmy Savile in the United States, but Savile was how it was pronounced in the UK. So Guka McDuck says, "Okay, sorry, are you in the UK?" I don't like to geolocate myself too much, but I am in Ireland, and so it's not part of the UK. It was part of the British Empire until I think 1947. I think same as say India, and then I think Israel. So around that time after World War II, there was a lot of nations that became their own independent countries. So I don't really get too hung up on that, but we got all the British TV, you see, as well as our own little parochial TV. Josh Spruitt says, "Best of wishes for contentment in the coming year." Yeah, I appreciate the best wishes in the spirit in which they're given. I'm kind of feeling, I'm asking myself, do I want to be content? I don't think I want to be content. I want to stay malcontent. I never want to be content. Dr. Crispy Johnson says 1922. Well, that was we won't get into history too much, but that was technically not the Republic, but a free state. But it was like home rule rather than a nation in its own right, and was still part of the British Empire. Or at least the Commonwealth of Britain, or the British Empire. So not exactly the same thing, but how and ever. And it did have legal ramifications. It meant that anybody born in Ireland before 1947 was technically a British citizen if they wanted to be, or they could hold a British passport, that kind of thing. So we won't get hung up on it, though, too much, So best wishes to anybody as well out there. For what it's worth, I hope you all have a happy new year, and that I appreciate Josh Spirit says contentment, and I know what he means. Big Dummy says, "You turned me onto the Boer War, many parallels to the Revolutionary War." Absolutely, here in the USA, as he says, because what was it in 1692? Is that it, or 1642? I can't remember, that the Mayflower left Holland or Netherlands and then went via the east coast of Britain, picked up some English people who were trying to get away as well. Or was it 1692? Columbus sailed the ocean blue, 1642. My God, I can't remember, and the reason I'm getting confused is because it was 1652 when a fellow called Jan van Riebeeck, I guess they say it was for the first time, made the voyage to the Cape of Good Hope, or near enough to it, and in a place that became Cape Town. He moored his ship, or whatever is the technical term for it. So yeah, the Boer War and the War of Independence absolutely parallel there, as far as independence from Britain or whatever the colonial powers were, or the world as we now know it. The British Empire, same as the Roman Empire, never really went away. 1492. Thank you, American patriot. That's when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Although you see, I didn't have an American education, so that's not like something. Was it really something that even in your day, maybe you're too young, that maybe they said, "Oh, that's terribly racist. We don't even want to mention that anymore." Even though, as far as I understand it, Columbus was either Italian or he was sailing under Italian money from Spain, but it was just around the corner from Portugal. But anyway, look, I won't get bogged down in it, but I'll just mention very quickly that another parallel to the American sort of manifest destiny and the conquering of the country, or what's a better way of saying it? The move west, the pioneering spirit. That's it. The pioneering spirit is absolutely paralleled in the move inland by the Boers, and the Boers were farmers or peasants, and they went inland on a far trek, and in Dutch or Afrikaners, it would have been called, or it was called, the Trekkers. So to go on a trek is to go on a hike or a journey or a pilgrimage, really, you could say it. And they were pilgrims. And Voer in Afrikaans or Dutch is far. And it's funny, like, I mean, it's just spelled far with a V instead of an A, and a double O instead of an A. So they go Voer instead of far. And you know, so much of Dutch and German and all this, it's just spelling things differently because their accent is different. And then eventually they separate so much that they're like different languages. So the Voer trekkers were just like the pioneers. And the funny thing is, they headed sort of northeast, whereas the pioneers, the pilgrims in the States, headed west or southwest, maybe in some cases. So there's say hello to Shadow Mask, and there's Jack Torrance, and he says cheers as he always does, and he says hello to Shadow there as well. American Patriot said he had a Catholic education. I better put some of this on the screen. He said he had a Catholic education and a good school. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And maybe, you know, I don't know whether you appreciated your education at the time as well. I certainly didn't. I just thought it was normal. But it seems as if I had a fairly decent education, which I should have been grateful for at the time. And maybe I should have listened more. You know, I did think that I knew it all. And I didn't need to listen much. And I clowned around too much, I think. Didn't realize how serious things were. They didn't seem that serious in the 80s and the 90s. Goku McDuck says, I am a Catholic, but raised on public education. And Shadow says he's went to both Catholic school and non-Catholic school, but he preferred non-Catholic. What was a non-Catholic? Oh, I forgot. Maybe Shadow, if I can say, has, I'll just say Middle Eastern. I won't tie it down to a particular country because I'm not dead sure, actually, if I remember it right. But so maybe you've got some Catholic and some Muslim background. I don't know. Dr. Crispy, he's asking, were you a messer? I was. That's exactly what I was. I was a messer. I wasn't exactly the class clown, but I played the clown a lot. And maybe I was a smart aleck, a smart ass, you know. Now, I better get on with it anyway. Private Christian schooling, says Big Dummy, until 5th grade, and government schooling grades 6th to 12th. Yeah. So I think as well, maybe for a lot of people, and myself included, you don't necessarily go to the same school for junior school as you do senior school. So you can have a change even in the sort of ethos, even if it's not a totally different. I mean, some schools can be secular in a way, or they can be nominatively a Catholic school, but it's not as if maybe you get too much, or religious in some way, but maybe it's not as if the religion is overtly present any more than it would be outside of, like, say, just specific religious or catechismal education. Goku McDuck says, last week I said the educational system is pretty much a mafia. It certainly seems to have changed for the worse in most every place, just like every other aspect of our society and culture and civilization. Education needs to change worldwide. If I had kids, I would homeschool them. I would too. And in South Africa, you know, I interacted with a lot of people there a few years ago before, you know, this terrible pandemic that nearly killed us all struck, because I think we all knew something was in the air. And a lot of people were in South Africa, I noticed, were becoming like maybe the hippies were in the 60s. They were trying to find a way out of the existing social situation, you know, and getting into figuring out how they could create homeschools and this kind of thing. So Shadow says, and better let him correct the record. I'm not Muslim. I'm Maronite Christian, and my family is Lebanese. Yeah, well, I seemed to remember it was Lebanese, but of course I forgot, and I think maybe we all tend to forget that there are Christians in different places in the Middle East. It's not all just Arabs or Muslims, rather. So feel free to write anything else if you think that I'm mischaracterizing anything. I didn't mean to. I think it's probably a useful reminder to know that there might be Christians out there. Goku McDuck says, I've never been in South Africa. Well, I hadn't been, and then I decided to go, and then I really liked it. And I think better start there. Oh, so American Patriot says, what's it like traveling South Africa as a Westerner? Well, obviously you stand out to some extent, but you stand out as a European because, no matter how tanned you might be, you look pale, And I think as well, there's something about, while there may not be such thing as evolution, the environment does shape you. And it's, it's not just the temperature, the amount of sun, the wind, all that sort of stuff does. And I think it affects the accents and things like that as well. And your temperament and just the way you walk and you talk, So after a while there, I spent quite a while there on and off over the last sort of, just prior, or I was there during the beginning few months of the pandemic, whatever. And I was stuck there for a while. I thought I was going to be stuck there for a good while. But on and off, anyway, for about 5-6 years, I was either working there or spending my winters there if I could. And so after a little while, I began to nearly have a permatan. And then I began to pass, because I learned a little bit of Afrikaans. And when I say a little bit of Afrikaans, I would use Afrikaans vernacular in my English and use English in a sort of, with some syntax and phraseology that would be South African, that I began to pass a little bit better for being maybe an Afrikaner, right? So I didn't stick out as much once I was tanned, and I didn't look like a European. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't clocked immediately, put it that way. Although if I did speak for too long, maybe people actually probably thought that I was American, believe it or not. Happy New Year all, says May's Mind, and Happy New Year to you too, and good to have you here. To quote Greta, how dare you? Well, how dare us all? How dare us all? And Goku McDuck says, I wish I could travel to Japan and maybe Iceland. As a Mexican, I live in the border. I forgot you were Mexican from the last time, and I was thinking about you, saying how it was cold in northern Mexico, and how you wished that you could be somewhere else. And I just thought, well, I would trade places with you. So you say, as a Mexican, I live in the border with USA, so I know South Texas. Okay. Wishing all a great time, says May's Mind. And Jamie Hillier-Rubis has some love for everybody, I presume. And hail and thanks, May's Mind. I wasn't. So Dr. Crispy Johnson asks, were you ever called Salt Dick by a drunk Afrikaner? I wasn't. And unless I'm forgetting something, because of past trauma or something, that's not a phrase that's familiar to me. Or at least not one that I've really ever heard regularly anywhere, let alone South Africa. So I don't know. Jamie Hillier says, blessing for the year to be, joy. Well, come on now, let's dial down the joy. I said, now you might have missed the beginning there. I said I wanted to have, quite a curmudgeonly, reluctant, a perfunctory new year. I wish you all a perfunctory new year, because I wanted to stay curmudgeonly. I wanted to stay angry. And to be quite honest with you, although I might sound that I'm, full of bonhomie now, and it is good to talk to you all, and I'm in a much happier mood that I do get to talk to you all. Not just saying that now, but I want to stay quite, how should I say, not content. Somebody else, may be very contented in the new year. I don't want to be contented at all with the situation. I want to remain simmering with rage at all times, as Doomcock says, stay angry, says Goku McDuck. Yeah, stay frosty, stay dangerous, even stay rebellious at heart, and I would say highly dissatisfied with the situation. American Patriot says, do you believe there are similarities between the fall of Rhodesia and absolutely, and the current state of South Africa? Absolutely. And the funny thing is that, I mean, South Africans still to this day even kind of look at Zimbabwe and kind of go, oh, it's a basket case. We don't want to be like them. And I'm like, I mean, how exactly would you define the difference between South Africa and Rhodesia now? I mean, I know they might say, oh, well, our currency isn't quite as debased as that. You know, we don't have hyper mega inflation the same as that. But like, the funny thing is the quality of life is likely, I bet you it is likely better in some places in Zimbabwe than in many places in South Africa, you know. Certainly, I could imagine, you know, that in Namibia and in Botswana, it probably is. And in fact, I mean, I remember being in a place called Windhoek in Namibia, and it's a lovely place, lovely restaurant, lovely outdoor dining. And people at the table beside me were saying, oh, I'm looking forward to going to Cape Town. Like, I hear things much better there. I got a job there. Things are, you know, quality of life there. Things are cheaper. See, everyone just thinks the grass is greener on the other side, you know. You can still tie one on and be pissy, says May's Mind. Tie one on. I guess that's, you know, sort of a phrase for saying, you know, you can tie an old yellow ribbon around the old oak tree, or a ribbon around your finger to remind yourself to stay angry, I suppose. Sláinte, perfunctory sláinte, says Jamie Hillier Rubis. Sláinte is more or less the Irish word for cheers or good health. It's, you know, like Prost, the thing you might say when you're raising a glass, you know. Lark Darkwing Duck says, let's get dangerous. Can you claim reparations then? Can I? No. Oh, and just to be clear, an Afrikaner is a white man. An Afrikaner is somebody out of Dutch or German, possibly Frankish, French ancestry, Dutch really. He's not a Britisher, you know what I mean? So an Afrikaner, you might think, oh, that's an African. No. It's somebody who is from Africa, but is descended from basically Germanic speaking European stock. The farmers. It's synonymous with the boer, but you don't necessarily have to be a boer to be an Afrikaner. The neighbour's fireworks last night, it felt like a war zone. Right. And, you know, that's the thing. I remember 4th of July and the people were wondering, you know, whether they would be allowed to have fireworks, you know, during 2020 and maybe even 21. I just thought, like, you know, there's no allowing got anything to do with it, you know, to either buy them or let them off. And really, they ought to be thinking about other things, you know. That's Duterte fan, and good to see you there in the chat as well. So, maybe Goka McDuck cleared up the confusion there. He says, lol, people of European extraction can ask for reparations. Even though, of course, anybody who looks into the history of it all knows well that the Barbary pirates, and didn't the US decide to do something about that there was so much of it going on that they decided to rescue some Europeans who were enslaved by the Barbary pirates. Notice, and I want to sort of, you know, make sure that I'm reading it in tone of voice where we're only just talking about historical matters long time ago. People in South America do not ask for reparations. They do not, because they're too busy. I don't know exactly what they're too busy doing. Maybe they know nobody's got any money. You know, it'd be a pointless endeavor. You can drink alcohol and have a good time and still be angry. Yes. We can have brief moments of respite. Boers are different, says Goka McDuck. There's an intersection between the two. My neighbors, so most Boers would be Afrikaners, but you would also get like farmers who are of English extract. My neighbors are lighting fireworks at this very moment, right? I used to know a guy who blew a couple of fingertips off of fireworks down in Mexico. Yeah. I suppose it could be anywhere that could happen as well. It doesn't have to be just Mexico. Convenient fireworks don't affect climate change. Isn't it convenient? Yes. Try Zaire, a dangerous paradise. Yes. Well, that's where the rumble in the jungle was, now called the Democratic Republic of Congo, if I haven't got confused. And I was told, look, just don't bother going in there. It's too dangerous. But, I mean, who knows? I didn't, though. But maybe at some point when I'm really, I'm feeling like that getting murdered viciously, but quickly, would be a blessing in disguise. That's the only thing. I think, when I'd be going through certain places, I'd be thinking to myself, I'd be thinking, look, if it would happen, I'd like it to be quickly, And if there's going to be murdering and raping, there's a certain order you'd like that to happen in, even though you wouldn't particularly like your corpse to be defiled afterwards. But anyway. Right, well, listen, this is supposed to be New Year's, so I'll try not to just throw things on you like that anyway, without a bit of warning. Try Zaire, he says, a dangerous paradise. Perfect, but I love Ireland. Has no bitey, stingy things. There is that. And I suppose maybe another time, I was going to talk about, if there was time, maybe I'll have to get some photographs together, though, just to maybe have something to illustrate. Zambia. And yeah, no, I'll leave that for another time to talk about mosquitoes and things like that. So don't worry, all is well in the scheme of things, says Jamie Hillier Rubus. Big Dummy says, yes, it's already sounding like Mogadishu here in Georgia, USA, isn't it? Just everywhere. And that's a great thing. That's a lovely thing, of course. So see all of us. Now. And Orluman, right. So he's in SC. Well, look, you said it a few times. SC USA. If anyone doesn't know where that is, we'll make the feds look there. Write that down. Find out where it is. So there's Slow Boy. Did she say something else there? Maybe I missed it. Because no, she said, "Hey guys," there. Yeah, okay. And just about caught up there. So thanks. I really appreciate all your comments there. Show DJs. I will do that. 20 minutes from. Oh, listen, or a lemon. If I buy fireworks, Wacky Wayne's. All right. Well, there you are, Dixie. Right. Okay. Caught up there now, and I'm going to share my screen. And so Mazemind says we have things to boom and things to drink. I think he's off to light some fireworks. Cheers, Mazemind. Talk to you later then, and have a good one. I'm going to share my screen, and yes, okay. Sorry for a bit of dead air there. I'm just trying to read here how I can do it. I'm sorry, yes. Okay, StreamYard, access charity and social media, select a window or screen. Okay, StreamYard, right. Allow and forgive the sort of Hall of Mirrors effect. And I think, yes, I can go across to here, I think. And I think that's viewing. This is slightly different to what I tried the last time. But anyway, I'll maximize this, maybe minimize my mic just for now, and play this. Well, so well, there you are. Now, um, I see there. Let's see. I'll start. I'll start back with the comments here again. So, I just have to scroll back a little bit. Yeah. Well. Ah, damn it. Well, Slowboy is saying, "Am I the only one without sound?" And then Gokumo is saying, "I hope you do not get a copyright strike for sound." No sound. Ah, damn it. No sounds. Oh well. Listen, I'm really sorry. That's me being stupid again. Then I mean, I thought I was sharing my screen and blah blah blah. Um, look, I guess it'll have to do. I tell you what, if you want to watch it, I've put the link in the description anyway to it. And you can watch it later. I think it would be just too torturous to do it all over again. Um, so I'm gonna just read through a few of these comments and then get on with another thing anyway. Oh boy. I'm embarrassed now about it. That's basically it anyway, I'm embarrassed. But anyway. Right, I'll go through the comments here. Yeah, no sound. Sorry. If only I could look at this, but I thought I had to switch my screen to the different tab in order to be able to share what I was watching. Damn it. Yeah, so anyway, Big Dummy says the dude has horse teeth and they are fake teeth, and he's basically trying to take off the big smile like that all these people have. So look, you probably got the idea anyway. They're talking about how they do a lot of work for charity, but they don't like to talk about it. And it's this basically the ostentatious piety, isn't it? And the ostentatious good works of charity. So look, I'm glad that you persevered and you got the idea anyway. Charidee and Nicey, Smashie and Nicey on the Fast Show. And that's it. Definitely one of them was based on Jimmy Savile, or Jimmy Savile inspired at least one of the guys anyway. And it is creepy. And I think they did as much as they could get away with in the early 90s, that they set it in a hospital which Jimmy Savile had access to and was given awards by, and was made sort of an honorary employee and things like that. Yeah. They were comedians sort of taking a piss out of like basically bland but wacky morning DJ or afternoon sort of cringeworthy jocks. So it was the Chabello from the UK. Yeah, looks like a good pal of Jim will fix it. You got it. That was Jimmy Savile, exactly. And they were more or less taking the piss out of him. I'm so embarrassed about the audio. And again, it's a different machine here. Maybe it's something to do with, I won't trick around with any of the settings now, but I guess it's a setting that I didn't do or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it is a good thing. Maybe it'll help me not get a copyright strike. I don't know. Savile's sidekick. Is the audio absence intentional? It wasn't. Damn it. I'm so sorry. 4 minutes of no audio. Ah, boy. Said Crispy Johnson. I should have downloaded it and had it ready. As I say, you can watch it later, right? It's the link is in the description. So Lord of Mercy, they're heretic. Well, I don't know. Depends on how you look at it. They were lampooning or satirizing real BBC people. So they were taking the piss out of the correct people. Unctuous people who thought that they were. And there's another one in there put in the description of this video where they were on that British thing, what's it called, comic relief as well. Very ostentatious displays of charity and public good works. I think it was JC, my friend, my new friend and guest on the last live stream, who said, somebody, he was quoting somebody, I think he said, do your good works in private and do your evils in public, or whatever, fast show. Anyway, that's what it was. That's nightmare fuel. Yeah, it was. Now there's more here. I'm really grateful, glad of all these comments. This is the share audio and share screen are two different buttons, possibly slow, but I don't know. I'm on a different machine here, and maybe I should have spent time doing a test live screen somewhere. There's Locan Garviel. Greetings to you. Chabelo is from Mexico, so maybe he's a corrupt politician, or he's a DJ in Mexico, or a famous guy. Here in Mexico, we say he's immortal. Look for Chabelo on YouTube. Okay. Big Dummy says, I get it. Yeah, most of these charities keep most of the money. Absolutely. And look, that's really what I wanted to sort of talk about, charity, and then tell a story that's at least one full story from Africa of my own personal experience. Keep most of the money. Yeah, well, famously, Bono's one charity is supposed to actually, although I haven't verified this personally for myself, but Bono's one charity is alleged. I've heard it said that 1% of what they take in actually goes to charity, or the people who can benefit from it. Needs to do a deep dive into what it takes to start a charity and how much money you can keep for operational costs. I mean, I wouldn't do it for that reason. I wouldn't want to set up a charity so that I could, and I doubt you would either, profit from it. So Big Dummy says, yes, my friend Griffin agrees. So what I want to do is maybe load up, I have some pictures here of the last time. And I think I'll just load this up again just to have some background here. So I think, yes, if I can see it there, you can see it. I can make my screen bigger. Just so you can see the whole thing like that. Chabela was a TV presenter, still alive. He is tagged as the friend of all children. Oh, okay, that sounds properly creepy. All right, yeah. Now, I did show this picture so I'll get on with my story here, sort of thing. And so we're back in Africa here, and this picture, I think, to me, when I took it at the time, I mean, when I saw this, I took a picture. I said that tells 1,000 words. And I said at one of my last live streams that the people in this township, village, location, whatever they want to call it, that these people who live in these humble dwellings, that they're very innocent, or maybe I'll just say stupid people. This was the attitude or unsophisticated people, that they're so unsophisticated that the ANC can come along every 4 years, put on a barbecue for them, glad hand them a bit, shake a few hands, put on a barbecue, or a braai, as they call it, in the Afrikaans Dutch language. And I mean, okay, let's say dim-witted, whatever, they're very easily duped by politicians, and that they come along every 4 years and then get their vote of these people just by that. And so I said, well, the lesson is, are they the dim-witted ones, or are we? Because we keep believing could be every 2 years or every 4 years, sometimes in some countries every 5 years, whenever there's an election or midterms or whatever, this candidate, this time it'll be different. And it never has been different. Every generation, it never has been different. Now, I will say that, there have been some presidents. President Trump did say some good things, but he didn't change the trajectory. And Ronald Reagan, to me, he was just an incredible man. He was highly intelligent. He had a great sense of humor. He seemed to have a great moral character. But he admitted that he couldn't change anything. He quoted Teddy Roosevelt when he said, and what Teddy Roosevelt explained to the voting pulpit was, hey, this is just a pulpit from where I can say inspiring things, but it doesn't change anything. Now, I think that it's only relatively recently that executive powers of the president, in other words, to make decrees or to make executive decisions, that really, it was probably seen more and more in the past, that even though you could do it, it was in poor form to do that. And it was to be used only rarely, in support of a, nominatively anyway, let's call it democratic process, or to further the will of the people in order to keep the spirit of the law going, if the letter of the law would have some perverse consequences. So Ronald Reagan, anyway, under him, even though I think he was great, things didn't change either. Things went on the same trajectory. And so the point of what I was saying last time is that nothing really is different, so different. I don't mean to be all egalitarian, but I did recognize, maybe not then, but it didn't take too long afterwards until I realized. I think when I realized that Donald Trump was not our last great white hope, when I realized that he was beholden to Wilbur Ross and the Rothschild banks, that, you see, I thought when he was being voted in, I wasn't aware of this. I thought that he would be uncorruptible because he had his own money. He didn't need to be bribed or couldn't be bribed because he had more money than most corporations. But where he got the money was from the Rothschilds. And that when he became president-elect, one of the first things he did was announce that Wilbur Ross would be I think it's Secretary of Commerce, rather than Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce. So once I realized that he was basically already compromised, I kind of went, all right, okay, well, I shouldn't have been so foolish. But, I won't have any more hope anymore that just the next guy. And I certainly don't have any more hope that, Ted Cruz can be the next guy. He is just as owned by the same group of, let's call them international bankers, as the rest of them. And who is the other one apart from Ted Cruz? There's another fellow that they say is based and all that. I can't remember. But anyway, look, they'll all take a trip over and kiss a certain wall. Not this wall with the ANC posters on it, but you know what I mean. So there's just no point, right? And people say, don't be so black-pilled or whatever. It's not black-pilled. It's not being negative. It's just the truth. I see the comments there. Goku McDuck says Abbott. No, he's another very well-known American politician. It's not Ted Cruz. DeSantis. Thank you, big dummy DeSantis. So Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz. I can remember one name, not the other. Only one name at a time. Like a record baby. Kamala Harris will turn things around. That's what they say. Better put these up. Right, now, so let me get on with it, right? So that's one instance. That's just to sort of establish a principle here. We look at people in Africa and we say they're not very sophisticated. They're easily duped. They don't have the high IQ that we have, right? And yet we seem to fall for the exact same tricks politically. I don't think anybody's going to have too much of a problem with that, right? So how exactly can we differentiate ourselves anymore, if we ever could, from these people who we did think were not as civilized or sophisticated as we in the West? Do you see where I'm going with this? And I don't want to be an egalitarian. I'm not trying to convince you that we're all the same. But I'm saying in this regard, we are too trusting and we're too easily manipulated. And we have the wool pulled over our eyes by just, okay, maybe this last time it'll be different type trick. Works on us, same as them. Okay? So we cannot say we're more sophisticated or clever than them in this regard. Confused Cruz with DeSantis. I may have, and in my mind, I definitely would say that in my mind, I do have, in wherever I store my memory of them, they're in the same place, and so I may be confusing the two. I'm fairly sure, though, that I have looked into both of them, and I've heard what both of them have said, and kind of went, okay, no. They are, they're more blue, if you know what I mean, than red, And I can't remember which guy now. Maybe both of them, but I remember one of them anyway has a wife that worked for Goldman Sachs, high up in Goldman Sachs, So, okay, look, I better go back a little bit here through. So anyway, Big Dummy says, I get it. Yeah, most of these charities keep most of the money. You need to do a deep. Oh, no, I read that one. Okay. My friend Griffin agrees. That's where Chabella was a apprentice. Yes, sorry. Okay. I've gone back a little bit too far. Slowboy says, or Shadowmask rather says, Slowboy, you uploaded a video of Fitzy and Whippa from here in Australia. Fitzy's sister runs a charity. Okay. Well, look, these days, right, if somebody's a politician, I'm going to assume they're crooked. And I don't think it's unreasonable. And if somebody runs a charity, I'm going to assume they're crooked as well, that they're a shyster, that they are a con man, a charlatan. That's what I'm going to assume. I'm sorry, not sorry if anybody's offended by that. Same as Mexico. I may have skipped over someone. I'm sorry if that happened. DeSantis wears there we are. DeSantis wears the kippa at the Wailing Wall and made it illegal to boycott isn't real products. Well, there we have it. That's essentially it. And I don't think that Cruz is much different. Although I may be confusing the two. I think we'll find the same for Cruz as well. Now, Goku Mukta says, I dare to say, yes, genetics do have something to do with whatever our propensities. I will fill it in to do. I'll say our propensities, our behaviors, our perceptions, our outlooks, our modes of behavior anyway. But it is tried to be seen as something evil or not properly used. I've seen it here in Mexico. Yeah, there are national characteristics, and national characteristics used to be so because people were of the same nation. To Satan, says Shadow Mask. But yeah, politics seems scripted, pointless to vote. It does. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. No offense, says Goku McDuck, I think is what he's referring to, is that I'm sort of saying. I'm going to assume that all people who set up charities aren't doing it because they just really want to help everyone, because they really care about their fellow man. I don't think so. Man, I cannot understand anyone worthy working for the government after what has happened. Yeah. And I really don't think that there's any point in sort of saying, I can change the system from within. I don't think so. Trump could rerun as a Democrat. People would still vote for him. Yeah, probably. Hard and long to explain. Now, I think, let's see, what will I do here? I'll go on to another photograph anyway, just to set the scene a bit more differently. Now I've got just to get something else to look at, right? Now, so yeah, this is good enough to look at for just now. So here's some children from the village playing, and what I want you to imagine is I'm sitting in my friend's vehicle. We're sitting on top, probably looking at a scene like this, and we're having a smoke, and I think we've probably just come back from the long trip over the dust road, and we've got some beers in the cooler, and we look down here and we're sort of talking about things like I've just been talking to you about, and the way of the world and things like that, just to use as a euphemism for humanity, the differences, the similarities between us all, and looking at the kids here and looking at the state of the place as well, and how it's disheveled and broken down and the grass isn't cut. And before I know it anyway, or before I realized, right, I wouldn't have seen, like, we're up on a hill looking down, and just having a swig of beer here, and we're looking down, and I have the window open. I'm tipping my cigarette out the window, and all of a sudden a face appears at the window. He just pops up. It's like he's been crawling up to the vehicle. I would have thought I would have seen him, but one of these little lads, like, I don't know how old he is. He could be 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, maybe not 18, but a teenager, or, could be 12. Hard to say. Just pops up there. And he says, can I have 5 rand? Must I have 5 rand? And this is the kind of funny way they have of asking, like, or maybe they just kind of look at you, put the palm out, hold the palm up to you. £5 rand, and it's a bit like saying, hey, buddy, can you spare a dime, But they don't really mean a dime. You could put a dime in their hand, but they'd kind of look at you with a lot of disdain, as if to kind of go, oh, come on now, you've got more than that. So it's a figure of speech. And I mean, I was obviously like, when somebody just appears like that, you get a fright. And I was like, what the, And so I says to him, no, I think I said, no, I don't have any money on me. But I mean, I was still practicing saying no, instead of just like, the way we did. We kind of go, oh, sorry, I don't have any money. I was trying to train myself not to say sorry. I'd already been there. This is my first time in South Africa. And I hadn't been there that long. I think probably less than a week. Not much more than a week if I was there that long, And, I was still looking to my friend for guidance as to what are you supposed to do here? And as well, I didn't want to be too rude, because I knew that he has to live here. I don't know whether he knows any of these kids in passing. I don't know whether he would prefer to give them money, or whether he prefer to just be polite and say no, or what is the story, And yeah, again, he wasn't able to sort of tell me exactly what he would do, but after he went anyway, he sort of told me, yeah, no, I would prefer not to give them any money. Don't encourage them. And this is the thing, and I'm sure you can understand, like, you give one, he says, they always want something, if you don't give them £5, even just like sort of, £1 would do. They'd like to feel that they got something out of you. And even if they don't get £1 out of you, and by the way, like £5 is something like, I mean, 10 cents, 12 cents. I can't remember. Maybe it's only 7 cents, whatever. It's around 10. No, it's not even 10 cents. It could be even 5 cents, somewhere between 5 and 10 cents, I reckon. And so he says, even if they don't get £1 out of you, they'd like a match. Just give them a matchstick. That's what they want. And so I'm saying, like, would it have been better to give them a matchstick? And actually, in a way, yeah, because they got something and it's useful. And they probably would like to, if they get a cigarette, then they have a match. And it's worth something to them. But at the same time, of course, and as a fella who I used to listen to a lot, but rarely now, but that's only because he's probably only on BitChute and you can only listen to the first few minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of whatever he puts out. There was a fella called, what was it? The Atheist Kangaroo, Atheist Roo, AIU. Atheism is Unstoppable, is what he called himself. And he had a grandfather, or perhaps even father, who was born in South Africa. And maybe he maybe he was brought up a bit in South Africa, even though he was from California, or went to school or university in California. So he used to talk about the same thing, that if you would give them anything, and I did learn this, that there's basically a rule. If you give them any charity, then their attitude is not, oh, you've given me something, I will feel now that I'm indebted to you until I give something back to you. The way they feel about it is, you've given me something, and now you must continue to give me something. So and you see that attitude in so many places. And it's not just them. I mean, with Eastern Europeans, it seems to be the same thing as well. You've given me charity once, therefore you must give me charity every day, because you've made me accustomed to it. That's their attitude. You would think that they would be grateful and sort of say, you've helped me up, brother, and now if you ever fall, I will help you back up. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to really toughen up. And I think my experience in South Africa was to shed a lot of my naivety. And rather than them feeling more well-disposed towards you, they actually look at you with less respect, more disgust even. That's definitely a sense that you get. They feel entitled to whatever you have. And of course, we do have the media always, don't we, stoking up this kind of idea that in the past, we ourselves personally, or our parents or grandparents or our whole societies have stolen from them, that they're only poor, numerous and poor, because we've stolen all this riches from them. So that's something you have to be really careful of, because you feed into that idea if you're compassionate towards them. they see that as proof that if you are, looking down at them with compassion, that they kind of go, that's guilt. They interpret that as guilt. And they're gradually getting back through cleverness or righteousness, that they're taking back from you what you took from them anyway. So this is more maybe reasons why they might sort of say, yeah, well, just continue to give to me every day. I'll be back tomorrow for more, and you better keep giving me more until I feel like, whatever wrongs were done in the past, that the debt has been repaid. So I'll pause there for a moment and go back through some of the other comments here. Cook says, hard and long to explain. Here in Mexico, there is no 1 cent coin. When we pay at stores, they ask us to round up costs that way. Money out of nowhere is created, going into charity. Oh, yeah. And that's the way it is in Euro Cookland as well. Even 5 cents, they're just not interested in 5 cents. A 5 cent these days is probably like, not even, I was going to say a penny, but it's probably like the halfpenny used to be. We used to have a halfpenny. When I was a child, we used to have a halfpenny. And they probably got rid of them in the 90s, maybe even the 80s. Iran is with served as a, well, yeah, that's true to say about Trump, yeah. And he was always, like, of course, as everyone knows, I'm quite sure, a New York Democrat member, or registered Democrat voter, if not member of the party. Making it look like a good and noble thing, says Goka McDuck. Yeah, his daughter is pretty liberal. I would probably say so, yeah. Still talking about Trump, I think we're saying there. So he was a failure, says Slow Boy, White Boy. Saw a clip of him telling a crowd to leave Soros alone. Is that Trump? Leave Soros alone. Like Britney, leave Britney alone. Wow. It's just incredible. I don't think I've seen that clip. Saw a clip of him. If you find that clip, let's see, can I... I'm through StreamYard, so I don't... If you're not a mod already, if you are, stick it in the comments. I can imagine a scenario where Soros is more, I'm supposed to not mention that name, aren't I? He's more oppressed slave than we are. A few days ago, I tried to be nice to an old man on the street, says Goka McDuck, as I had spare change. I tried to give him a $5 peso coin. So you have a $5 peso coin? Or maybe it's 5 peso coin, I should say. I'm sorry about that. And he wanted a 20 peso bill. F that guy. Well, yeah. See, this is the thing, right? You think beggars can't be choosers, but it seems they can be. It's their business, and they get irritated if you're slowing down the business. It's just incredible, isn't it? Just incredible. I guess I'll tell a very quick similar story. I was, I think, in Dublin City, and a lot of the bars, even though it's a cold and rainy place, there are a lot of places where you can sit on the pavement, but just like New York, it's a sort of there are these kind of plastic square tents around it, So they basically move the way it is, and then gas heaters and all this sort of stuff. It's ridiculous. And they talk about like energy saving, Anyway, this fella was going around, and asking for money. And I felt a bit guilty, here's me drinking and smoking and having plenty of money and wasting it and all this kind of thing, and on useless, frivolous things. And, he had this sort of, I'm Reegs and look on, I'm so cold, and here's me sitting under the heater and all this. So I says, have you got a place to stay tonight? And he goes, oh, well, I mean, I have, they cost €40 a night, or it was £40. No, I think it was €2 at the time. I have €40, or I need €40 to get a place to stay in a hostel, but I've only got €20. So I'm hoping to try and, if I can stay out for another hour or two, I might get enough money, and I can stay in somewhere warm tonight. And I went, all right, well, look, fair enough, right? I said, look, here's 20 quid. I was only going to spend it on booze anyway. So there you are now, right? And I figured as well, like, I was helping him not have to humiliate himself by going up and down the bar, looking for money. Because like, not trying to, right? I was going to say, not trying to say how charitable and nice I am, but that's the whole point of this, I don't care about rewards in heaven. I don't want to go to heaven. I want to work in hell, and I'll get up every morning delighted. If most of humanity will be there, make sure all their torturing needs are met within the service level agreement. That's, I think, what I'd enjoy as a job. So not looking for my reward in heaven at all. So that's why I can tell you about this. So, gave him 20 quid, thinking, I'm decent, and I'm preventing him from humiliating himself more, And he wasn't that grateful. He just went, oh, okay, thanks. And then moved on, like, not to the next table and sort of, or tried to get a bit of out of earshot of not eye shot. No, just went on to the, my friend and other people at the table that I knew asking them for money. And I said, what the hell? I said, I just gave you 20 quid. And he was telling them the exact same story within my earshot. Oh, I'm trying to get 20 quid. I'm 20 quid short of a hostel tonight. I said, I've just given him 20 quid. He has enough money now to go to a hostel. And he started getting violent then with me, and telling me to F off and all this, I say violent, hostile at least, anyway, And again, it just, it shows me what a mug I am. That, and the other thing then as well is, okay, maybe some of these people on the street are genuine. But you just don't know. And especially if you're somebody like me who's been so naive for so much of his life. And I don't want to engage in hate speech. So I'll say I really detest those people. I despise those people who take advantage of my good nature and have taken advantage of my good nature and make it so that genuine cases out there, then they may not get the help they need because they're not as brazen about asking for money. And they just lie quietly in a corner somewhere in a box dying of hypothermia. Maybe that's it. Or that if they would ever ask, I'd kind of go, here's another one of these people abusing my good nature, Anybody who has ever asked for money or assistance or help in some way under false pretenses, I want to go to hell to make sure that they're there and I look after their every torturing need according to the SLA. You see what I mean? And I think you can understand where I'm coming from. So this is it where I don't want to have a lovely new year. I don't want to feel content. I don't want to feel a sense of brotherly love with my fellow man. No, because I know what humanity is like. And by humanity, I mean people, men and women. Don't want to sound at all egalitarian, but they're all the same. There may be a few exceptions, obviously. Every one of you in the chat. Not you, of course, my dear listener. You're all lovely. Anyway, I'll get on with some more comments here. Same scenario for any of them, really. So yeah, I really try to say no nowadays. Feels bad as the elderly couple I see who doing it. We're on the same page, I guess. The elderly I know who take charity over and abuse it. Yeah. See, this is it. Too many people have destroyed whatever good there might have been. And it's not just a few bad apples. It's most of the bad apples. And so I don't even know if there's any good apples left in the barrel. Yep, they get everything free and extremely wasteful. You see so many of them who get so much government assistance, get so much charity given to them, that they're just, they kind of say, 5 pesos, give me 20. Or is that all you got? So in most cases, it's unfortunate. Yeah, this is big tummy there. People in my life who are in their 80s and even over 90 are the most media brainwashed people on earth. Yeah, it's how can they be like that having lived through so much? But I have a feeling that people do get awake at some point and then like to go back to sleep. They return into the matrix. Same here in Mexico. We are raised that it is all gringo whitey for taking away the territory and the Spaniards for taking away the gold. Right. Yeah. And so if you're mestizo or if you're European looking, they probably think that, you're from the class that needs to give to them. Or gringo, I should say, yeah. In Fiji, the Fijian Indian kids and the adults were like that, but the native Fijians weren't money hungry. Right. Are there Fijians who are Indian? And I'll say, like, on the Indian Ocean side of things, on the west coast of Africa in, God, what's that city? I can't believe it's gone out of my head now, but anyway, Durban in South Africa, and that coast there, there's a lot of Indians there. So maybe there's Indians like that in Fiji as well. Again, could we possibly even just wonder about whether that there is some kind of characteristic that is endemic then? is it at least something that we can question or wonder about? I wonder. It was a channel called Zach Man, says Shadow Mask. Same here. At a local mall, a little girl and an old man in separate times asked me for money and food while they seemed well fed and kept. Yeah, and you'll definitely see so many of the Eastern Europeans, both in Europe and in America now, that it is their business. It is their profession. I should have saved some of these videos and had them all ready to go. Maybe I'll do a part 2 on this another time. We'll go through them. I think we'll have to, because I'm just not going to have time to get through it if I want to keep this to any kind of a sensible length here. Yes, no hate speech. We don't engage in hate speech, just detestable discourse, let's say. Despicable discourse. Deplorable discourse. I'm not lovely, says Goku McDuck. I am a hijo de la chingada. I hope I pronounced that right. I am a hijo de la chingada. So I should be able to guess what that means, but I can't really. But I mean, I'm getting the sense of what it is. I'm going to say maybe something like a deplorable, a deplorable gringo, something like that. Can you send Lily Kazoo says, can you send me $20? Lily always does hard graft for a living. I get that sense. And if you look on her YouTube, she has some of these videos that are titled a side hustle. In other words, like, here's a sort of a way of earning a few bob if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty or exert yourself physically a little bit. Lily says, there are 5 free hot meals available in the Seattle area per day. Lots of food banks. Every town has at least one. The dollar is for a drink or drugs. Yeah. And to be honest, like, I actually could understand that, or I could tolerate that if they'd just be honest with me. But very few people are prepared to sort of say, yeah, look, I do want some money for beer or drugs. And even if it's for drugs, I could at least sort of say, like, well, I respect the honesty. And by the way, in South Africa, I'll find a photograph for another time. There was a girl or a woman in Cape Town. And I think she's kind of quite famous. If you're on Facebook, you've probably seen her. I spoke to her and asked her, "Did you mind if I take a photograph of her?" And she holds a sign up saying, "My husband was abducted by aliens. Need money to save up to go into space to rescue him, or something else, or something along those lines." And like, basically what she's saying is, look, whatever we write on these boards, it's a whole load of nonsense, right? It's a load of bull. So I'm just making you laugh. If I've made you laugh, in other words, like, and these other people saying, "Oh, I need money because I'm homeless," blah, 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 blah. You know what we all want money for? It's drink and drugs, right? So at least if I'm kind of leveling with you in a humorous way, you kind of say, listen, you're a good sport. There's some money. You know what I mean? It's just, I think we'd rather not get tricked. And, I think Lily did highlight the fact, and I've seen it as well in some other videos, that there's a lot of people who have, in a manner of speaking, fallen through the cracks. And I don't think that they're all drug addicts. And I don't think that they drink any more than anybody would have a right to if they're depressed or want to keep warmer. And Seattle would not be a warm place. And I don't know if there's still snow around in the Washington, D.C. area. Maybe not. I don't know. But living in an RV or living in a caravan or something like that over winter, it's not conducive to staying warm. Even if you're inside that, I think you could freeze to death. Like, it would want to be something that you had lined and put a lot of work into double lining it and putting, foam or whatever in between insulation. So look, I tell you what does, right? So Goku McDuck says, not deplorable gringo, just deplorable. Fair enough. Big Dummy says, honestly, if you are starving in the USA, you have no sense. Government and charity are just handing it out left and right. Smartphones for everyone too. Look, maybe, but I'm not so sure that government and charity are handing it out, or I doubt that they would hand it out to you and I if we fell between the cracks. And I'll tell you this much. I was told once by somebody, of course this is hearsay, but it sounds right, that either their friend or they were in social welfare, and there was basically a sort of a crime gang. Maybe they were travelers, whatever, they were threatened with sort of being brought in for questioning as to what they're trying to do to look for a job or whatever, and they were just told, if you must be new around here, like, if you stop my dole payments, we know where you live and you're going to be sorry. And they were like, oh, sorry, they didn't make that mistake again. But with other people, they were sort of told, hey, listen, you can get a job. You're a decent person. You're not like them. Like, I'm not going to give you social welfare. You're just not entitled to it. I'm going to refuse you, So they make their own arbitrary decisions, and they certainly wouldn't refuse our guests from where, from Eastern Europe and south of Europe as well. You know what I mean? So Gokumukuk says, Hijo de la is son of the. Ah, okay. I don't know why I don't know that. Maybe I was thinking of Hermanos or something like that. But that's brother rather than son. Okay. Like, I don't speak Spanish and I don't speak German, just I know a few words of each, and that's about it. Send $1 for hookers, please. Yeah. And again, like, if you had somebody like holding that sign, need money for hookers, you'd kind of go, at least he's not trying to play the poor mouth. That's the thing, on bail booked, as used to be said, even back in the 1800s in Ireland, and there was poor houses and workhouses, just the same as there was in other places in Europe and in the US. And in, places in New York, there's black and white photos of people like that, and children having to work, and orphans and all this sort of stuff, and children being sold. So whatever happened in the West, we worked our way out of that. But within a few generations, we were determined to bring ourselves back into penury and poverty. I think I lost my train of thought there for a second. But anyway, chingada is an insult, a curse word. Fair enough. I wonder, will that trigger any algorithms? The beggars in Bangkok, says Martin Webb, are blind or have missing limbs. Yeah, and I think we both know as well that it's very likely that what a lot of them do, just like in the life of Brian, where your man got cured and he wasn't happy. I'm a leper. But now you've cured me, he says to Jesus. You've cured me of my leprosy. You've taken away my trade. I think we have heard. If you haven't, I'll say it anyway. It seems to be verified and has been for long time, generations, that what they do is they chop off limbs or blind themselves in one eye. Not just those beggars in Bangkok or in different places in Asia or Indonesia, Southeast Asia, wherever, and the same in places like Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, and then they would go all throughout Europe. So you'll see them in places like Paris, and you'll see them in Venice, you'll see them in Rome and Siena, and Milan and Turin, and like, I'm thinking of Italy in particular because you see lots of them there. I think the Romanians probably get into Italy. The Roma gypsies, of course, really, so they do the same thing, deliberately blind some of their own children. And we go, oh, how dare us think that they would do that to their own children. We don't like to think about things like that, but that gives them their trade, and of course, they will always have the swaddling baby or the fake baby. That's making me think about sharing a video, but it would be no sound maybe, unless because I haven't figured out how to share a screen any differently than the last time, so I won't bother. I'll just try and do it the next time. So Gokumaguk says that in our own educational system, we are taught that it is the US's fault for taking away Texas, California, and such, and why we are not a developed nation. And so, yeah, because maybe Mexico thinks, we would be as powerful and as rich as the US if they hadn't taken California and Texas from us. As though it was the land that was arrow. Well, look, okay, something might be better about the land. Maybe it's more arable or fertile. But at the same time, it's not just that the land is magical. That's not the only factor. And we all know it. And I think they know it too. But they'd like to run that experiment, wouldn't they? California and such, and why we are not a developed nation. And so Spain for conquering us. Yeah. The homeless people in my town are mostly all mentally ill. So Jesus is Luke Skywalker. That's a very salient, very important point. That's something that, and really what I'm speaking to here is, and I'm sure, you would all agree that what's important to do is that we were all quite naive, or more naive than we are now when we were younger. And this is the kind of advice that if this happens to go forward to somebody who's younger, somebody who might exist now and they're in their teens or they're in their early 20s, or somebody who hasn't been born yet, and this world, this earth, this civilization, whatever passes for a civilization, keeps trundling on inexorably through sheer momentum. And by the way, that's how South Africa just keeps going, through sheer momentum. That's why it hasn't collapsed yet. Right? Just the momentum of what was is carrying it forward. But anyway, if there's some, boy or maybe a girl, but they'll be all right. It's a boy really who needs to have the naivety wiped from his eyes. And that point there about the homeless people, you see, there is an aspect of mental problems. Not always. And I expect that maybe at some point I'm going to be homeless. Will I be mentally ill? Well, I'm certainly off kilter. And it would be very easy to characterize me as being mentally ill. What would all the unorthodox opinions and ideas that I have, and the tendency that I have to sort of, say all these things that sound incongruous or answer questions that people never even asked, But there is an aspect of homelessness. It's not just a lack of of mental illness with homeless. It isn't just a lack of money. Money is not something that just solves it. There is a behavioral issue at the very least, a psychological issue that needs to be fixed. That's more foundational to a simple lack of money. But I will say this, something that I observed a while ago now that I noticed, that there's really no such thing as sanity, and that anybody who is put into a mental institution is put there for two reasons. They are acting in a way that is not conforming to whatever is considered to be within the parameters or within the ballpark of what is considered to be normal behavior, and they don't have their own independent source of income. They're not financially independent. So if they were, and if they had plenty of money, they would be simply considered to be eccentric. And people would think, sure, they're great fun, great character. But if you have sort of, eccentricities, but you don't have plenty of money, or if you can be made lose your job, then you become mentally ill and you will be put into a mental institution. That's the key difference. Money is the only thing that makes the difference. So Big Dummy says that is hardcore. Not sure what he's talking about there for sure, but maybe something that maybe it's what Jesus is Luke Skywalker said, or maybe it's something I said. Roma gypsies are not beggars. Yeah, it's a profession. Exactly. We're on the same page there, Dr. Crispy. Lily Gazoo says, I would never give money to them, encourage them. Now, I was naive at one point, and I thought, like this was back in the late 90s or early 2000s, I thought that Roma gypsies had got here somehow with their last pennies, and that we couldn't have them living on the streets, that it looked bad on us, the nation that was supposed to be the nation of 1,000 welcomes. We couldn't have these people getting here hoping that someone would look after them, and that they're living on the streets. But I realized that, if you give any of them money, and it literally happened to me, I gave one of them money and they descended on me just like as if I had dropped a bag, opened a bag of corn, like maize kernels or popcorn seeds, popcorn kernels. You know how pigeons would suddenly descend on you out of nowhere? That's exactly what it was like. About 20 Roma gypsy women just swarmed me. It was ridiculous. And like at first I sort of thought I can't get violent with these, but I had to sort of start swinging then, like just to get them off me. There was about 40 hands all over me, in my pockets and everything. So I started wising up a little bit after that. And it absolutely is a profession. And a lot of the time, like if the baby is actually real, a lot of the time it isn't. It's just either a fake plastic baby or it's just clothes, whatever, stuffed to make it look like a baby, a little baby. They just borrow whatever baby happens to be going around between them. It's such a profession. And they know that they're taking advantage of us, taking advantage of our naivety. And their attitude is just like the attitude of the big bankers and the politicians. It's all the same attitude. if we're foolish enough to believe them, then we deserve everything we get. That's their attitude. And I remember JC said to me, that's the same attitude as the Freemasons. If we believe whatever, and the Illuminati, if we believe whatever stories they put out and we believe them, then it's like, I'll invoke the George W., you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, can't get fooled again. He was trying to say, shame on me. But he knew he'd kind of messed it up, or he couldn't remember what way. And it is, I'll be fair, it is confusing, especially if you're under a bit of stress. Anyway, I can understand that attitude. That if we don't learn, if we refuse to learn from our mistakes and disabuse ourselves of our naivety, then we kind of deserve it, We kind of deserve to be taken advantage of, or to be ripped off, or to be treated like mugs, So Lily says, I saw a video of an Irishman yelling at the men who were selling a woman as a beggar in Dublin. I think we've seen the same video, and I was going to play it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's possible that you found it in, well, I think maybe I didn't put it into the description in my video, but I think we've seen the same thing. I'll have to do a part 2 of this, I think, and we'll go through some of these, I'll just have to make sure my sound works when I'm sharing videos. Now, I've skipped over a few. Let me see if I can go back here. Martin Webb says 95% of the homeless in Anglophone countries are mentally ill. Maybe, a large proportion, I would say, basically, and I'd agree with you there. Dr. Crispy Johnson says that was Wexford, Lily. He called them out. So, okay. And what he thinks anyway. Martin Webb says Jerry Marzinski has proved that the mentally ill are possessed by demonic entities. Right. I tell you what, and that's something that I want to talk about another time. And I think Jerry, I forgot his name, but I think that's probably it. I think we've seen the same thing. And I think we talked about this before, Martin. Jerry Marzinski. That's something I want to talk about on a live stream as well. It's a fascinating interview. I think actually I talked about it with White Boy Slowboard as well, because I think she put it onto her channel. But it's on her channel, which I think is since gone now. But it's there on the internet somewhere still, and it's very compelling testimony or third-hand account that there seems to be enough anecdotal evidence to sort of say, even those of strict empirical nature, that they want to see or hold or measure everything out there, or they don't believe in spirits or ghosts. Well, I would entertain what he has to say. I don't want to spoiler alert it too much, but Jerry Marzinski, and if you can find an interview he did, I found it fascinating to listen to. I found it very interesting. It's crazy, says Big Dummy, that the tiny sliver of California produces the majority of the nation's produce. Yeah, it is. And water is a huge issue. Yeah, it is. And what was that movie with Faye Dunaway and Jack Nicholson in it that sort of alludes to the corruption even back in the sort of, they were doing a film noir about it, and or it's a film noir movie. And was it set in the 1930s? I think it was set in Art Deco times. So I'll say 1920s, 1930s, where the implication was at least that water was being diverted, dammed, deliberately sending certain places into a drought to, as you can well imagine, where there's a profit motive to bring down the value of land so somebody could buy it then for cheap, all this kind of stuff, and then divert the water back. So water is a huge issue. And by the way, I heard the same in Cape Town, that there's underground water river that's been diverted straight out to the sea because it suits them to have water as a more rare resource than it really is. I can totally believe it. So he says there are proposals to divert water from the Mississippi River to the west. Right. There's probably going to be some disastrous consequences. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. I wonder how many mothers whose children were adopted were classified as mentally ill. Says Shadowmask. Yes. You see, this is the thing, right? You know, the same people who own the banks and the media, they own psychiatry as well. So we have to be very careful about classifying anybody as mentally ill. And what exactly would it mean if somebody didn't have the right chemicals or nutrients or brain chemistry? And just by changing the sort of chemical ratio of different chemicals or whatever, biological chemicals. What is the difference between a biological hormone and a chemical? You know, all this is very fuzzy gray area stuff, you know, so we really have to tread carefully by classifying anybody as mentally ill because, you know, right now the system they're putting in place is to classify any of us as mentally ill who would question anything that is considered to be the received wisdom on the kind of things, like such as health and everything else. You question any of that, you question finances, you question politics, you question government. That's a staying an institution for you, a sanatorium, just because we care about your health. We want you to go get there and get well, if somebody becomes mentally unwell, let's say like Kanye West, maybe they'll medicate him. Do you remember how his handler, what was his name? Harvey Pasternak or Harley Pasternak. Somebody like him could declare us mentally unwell. Big Owl Dream on Twitter has the beggar video. Big Owl Dream. Okay. I saw something similar. That name doesn't sound familiar, but I saw something similar. Yes, I will not let Nintendo fool me 3 times. Nintendo. Crispy Johnson says, Roma kids walk around town pushing a pram, lifting anything not nailed down. Exactly. And it's a great thing, isn't it? Just in case anybody thinks we're not happy about that. It's lovely. It's beautiful. Ian Ramsey on Twitter, December 20th. Gypsies use the crime money from abroad to build enormous flash mansions, etc. Oh yeah. The Irish Gypsies are famous for going all around UK and Europe, doing their tar macadam, their asphalt. They're putting a quick surface down on people's driveways and then running off, and they come back then to places like Galway or wherever they're from, Limerick, I should say, in their very expensive supercars and SUVs, the thread is crazy. So I'm going to catch up and I'm going to tell another story now. So Aura Lumen says, I feel mentally ill, cannot think like those around me. Well, okay, don't say that unless it's clear to everybody that is not an admission. Because look, honestly, that's what they'll say. Oh no, you said it, we haven't proof. Well, okay, I know you're joking. But that's what's his name? It's ascribed to Krishnu Vidamurthy or something like that. Anyways, his name, where he says, it is no measure of a healthy mind to be well adjusted to such a sick society. Isn't that it? So we're maybe in the minority here, right? Where the majority, at least, is prepared to act in whatever way seems to be the received normality. In other words, the decreed normality. But we all know, we're all well used to that. So we're going to have to make sure that we actually do spend time ruminating, philosophizing on this. Who would have thought philosophy would have been necessary at all, to have to sort of say, okay, we can no longer rely on the wisdom of the common man or the wisdom of crowds or the sanity of the average person, as they used to say, on the Clapham omnibus. There is no average person on the Clapham omnibus. There's no more men in bowler hats going to work in normal jobs anymore. There are just thugs on buses. You wouldn't want to ride in public transport anymore. So there's no such thing as normal or sane anymore. Do you remember Homer Simpson? He gets a rubber stamp on his hand, officially declared sane. So South Park recently parodied Chinatown and water currents in a movie they made. Ian, so Lily says, I'll pronounce it Ion because it's I-O-N, but maybe it's pronounced Ian Ramaru, or M-A-R-U. Damn autocorrect. Okay, I'm going to see if I can play I'm going to move from here, from this place, and I'm going to move to Cape Town to tell a story if I can. And I'm going to see if I can play a video. And yeah, I'm going to try and talk as I'm doing it, right? So yeah, I've spent time in different places in South Africa. I've spent time in Johannesburg. I've spent time in a sort of a rural countryside area, which I'll say it was more or less sort of middle of the country, and but sort of like Western Cape, or no, not Western Cape, Eastern Cape. And then I'm going to move to the Western Cape, which is very similar around Cape Town, I think, anyway, to California. More safe, more opulent in a lot of the places, not all. Good God, not all. But let's see, what do I want to do here now? I want to try and connect to a file if I can get it. Anyway, what I want to talk about is a story that happened, or that is set in Cape Town, at least, anyway. And what I'm trying to do is see if I can find something. I'm trying to talk as I'm trying to figure out on my computer here, how do I connect to a network? Oh, God. Oh, it's bad, isn't it? Anyway, it's a little file that I wanted to. Joe Slovo is what I wanted to talk about. But I guess it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll just save it for another time. It's a totally different computer, and I'm just sort of confused. And I guess I'm just not good at multitasking. Yeah. Bear with me 1 second. Let's see. Sorry for the dead air. Right. No, look, I guess I'll save it for the next time. I'll just tell this story, and I'll save the video for the next time. All right. So, as I said, I spent some time in Cape Town, and I worked there. Oh no, I didn't work in Cape Town. I worked in Johannesburg. But I would sort of spend as much time. I'd go to Cape Town for winters, and I'd go there when I was off work and whatever. So anyway, I was there long enough, and I met a girl there, and I had a relationship there with her, and she worked for a charity. And that's, again, getting back to anyway, the subject at hand. And I was still very naive, still very naive. And this is like in the relatively recent past. I'll say, like, certainly within the last 10 years, and not too much. Well, maybe it's not 5 years, but between 5 and 10 years ago. And so Dr. Crispy Johnson there says so the garden route is well, I guess it's along the sort of south coast, and between Cape Town and maybe the east. So let's see. Irish. I'll read a couple of these and I'll get on with it anyway. Irish Travellers here, says Big Dummy, in my neck of the woods, many are hustlers and thieves. Most look identical from inbreeding. They have mansions in North Augusta, South Carolina. I might do a video on this. Yeah, please do. I remember now there was a short-lived series, and it had a British comedian, and I can't think of his name now, but he's well known for being a sort of I guess, transvestite. But I still to this day, I don't know whether that's his shtick, and it's just part of a comedy routine, or he's dead serious. I just don't know, and I don't think he's ever really said it for sure. Or maybe it started off as shtick and then it stuck. I don't know. But I can't think of his name. But he was in, maybe I'll think of it a bit later, but he was in a TV series anyway about travelers. And it was quite good. It was funny. It was I think it was a joint venture between a British TV thing called Virgin Media, and I think it might have been HBO as well, a joint thing between them. Well, if I think of it, I'll put it in the comments, right, what it was, and it might have been set in North Augusta, or around there anyway. So Goku McDuck. Sorry for the dead air, and I got a bit flustered that I should have set up this machine properly with the files that I wanted and tested and that kind of thing. And I'm disappointed, I guess, that I can't show you some video of Cape Town. I wanted to show you something of Joe Slovo Avenue or Boulevard or whatever. Next time, okay. I'll finish this maybe within around 2 hours, and then I'll do part 2 on this charity business. So he says, I have a feeling crime groups here, unless this gives me gets me in trouble, but we'll see anyway. I have a feeling crime groups here in Mexico plan something like Chinatown. Chinatown was the movie. Good God. That's the Art Deco with Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway. I was thinking of Chinatown. That was the movie, of course. About LA's water thing and everything. Scaring people away and getting their land. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. The old tricks keep working. We know that. So he says, Dr. Crispy Johnson says, I saw a documentary about Irish tinkers in the South years ago. Yeah, and tinkers apparently used to be a noble profession where they used to repair. A tinker was somebody who would repair pots and pans, and they were so-called tinkers because they'd, be heard along the road with their pots and pans clinking and clanking. So that would have been all right. But I guess once they didn't need pots and pans mended, they had no trouble but to, start using their cleverness to hoodwink people. So Goku McDuck says, damn, some neighbors right now are playing a sad song. I'll move on. No sad Mexican songs. No, it's all like a garacha, like a garacha. It got dark where I am. We still had sunlight when the stream began. Okay. Thank you very much. Most of my videos are all over the place, says Big Dummy. Going to get a new phone soon and step up production quality. Well, if you do a video about tinkers or travelers in North Augusta, that would be very interesting, because I think there was somebody else on a stream recently who was saying that there's no such thing as travelers or tinkers or gypsies in America. Maybe it was JC saying that, but I didn't want to contradict him. But he reckoned he didn't encounter them anyway. They also doll up their young girls and put them in beauty contests. Oh yes, that's an aspect of that beauty pageant stuff. That's a funny thing. Yes, definitely, that's an aspect of it. There's an overlap between the sort of, and it's more southern United States, I guess, but maybe not, of the beauty pageant stuff for, well, I was going to say young girls, but where they said young beauty pageant. I can't remember the name of it, but there's an overlap with the way that the travelers are as well. I kind of feel like I should put up some other different picture. I'll see if I just change the slide just for change's sake, at least anyway. And I just to have something to look at. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that there for the moment, right? So I'm in Cape Town, and this girl that I'm going out with, so when I say going out, I mean, having a relationship with, and she's working for a charity, and it's in its office where she works. So she works in an office for the charity. Like, I guess when I first heard that she works in a charity, I thought maybe I imagined her, out in the streets feeding the poor or whatever. And I thought, she's not only, and she's beautiful and so sweet and lovely and kind and gentle and angelic, and they all start out that way, don't they? But I thought that she was also working for a charity, so I just thought she's perfect all around. And time moves on anyway, and I was, absolutely, head over heels, I just, oh, I guess I was in love with her. I was head over heels. I was besotted, smitten with her. And so I just thought, well, of course she works for a charity because she's just that lovely. But she worked as an administrator in the charity. And so I did wonder, okay, well, I guess she works as an administrator, but she must still obviously do some work on the ground as well. To this day now, I doubt that she ever did. I think she just went to work every day, was in that office. It was just exactly like a corporate job. The more and more I became to understand about it, the more and more it was just a corporate job. And all I ever heard from her about the whole thing was never anything about the people she was helping, but about the inter-office politics she was having, like how her boss was a right B, a B to the I to the a B to the itch, her boss was very itchy with a B, and how her performance metrics were unreasonable, and her boss expects her to do this, but at the same time, the boss never sets the example and does it herself, and all this sort of stuff. And that, there's another girl in the office and she's always using the photocopier when she needs to use the photocopier, or the printer doesn't work properly, and only she knows how to fix it, and she keeps teaching the others how to fix the printer, but they don't understand because they're not as good with computers. And I was kind of like, yeah, this is sounding a lot like my office. And I'm like, so she's working for a charity, and yet all I hear is the same crap. This inane stuff that people like are annoyed and irritated with each other. Look, to cut short to the chase, like, all charities and all corporations, I'm sure it'll come as no surprise to any of you, are exactly the same. All these businesses, white collar jobs, let's call them, all office jobs are exactly the same. Whatever product they nominally sell or service they sell to people, that's all incidental. People all do the same job all around the world. It's just file the paper here, print the paper there, shred the paper there, walk over there, talk to somebody, ask them if they got your email. Oh, yeah, I got your email. I'm just going to respond to it now. Okay, I'm going to print out your email, and then we'll go to this meeting. And then we go to the meeting, we have a whiteboard, and we have action items that we write on the whiteboard, even though we all got it in the meeting, So, just put up a few of the comments here on screen. She was working for a charity, but she didn't like to talk about it. Don't like to talk about it, mate. Do a lot of work for a charity, though. So, same as foundations, yeah. And I guess I'll just tell this one story, and I'll find photographs and video. I'll have it all ready to go, and I'll do a part 2 of this. And so anyway, it's just amazing. I'll just give some incidental advice to any younger man out there, whether he's in his teens, 20s, or he might even be still naive in his 30s and 40s. You're not alone. I'm not a misogynist. I just because it's not women who I dislike. I'm a misanthrope. I'm a misanthropist now. I know what human beings are like. So it's just, men, women, whatever, they all operate within different parameters. If men were women, they would likely just act exactly the way that they are, you have certain, it's like top trumps or cards, or, characters in a game. Like, some have more strength, some have more speed. Whatever attributes they have, they just use them to the best of their ability. As a fella in, I think it's a team of people called the Body Language Experts or something like that, one of the guys just says the human animal just does whatever has been successful for it in the past. And I was reminded of a fella in the 80s called Desmond Morris, and he was a anthropologist, but he got in a lot of trouble. Even in the 80s, people started getting upset that he was studying human beings and making comments on their behavior, just the same as he would any zoological animal. And people got very upset about it. Like, how dare you? Human beings aren't animals. How dare you analyze human beings as though they are animals? But we are a part of the animal kingdom, right? And the whole idea of that we are wise, or that we have intelligence, or that we have the ability to be self-analytical, that does not seem to be a skill that many people spend, or any people really spend much time engaging in, analyzing their own behavior and sort of saying, like, what exactly is it that separates me from the animal kingdom? Because nothing much does seem to. So when I say this about women, It's not that I'm a misogynist, although, if they say that I am, then whatever, I don't mind. It's fine by me. But the way women are, they always find a way to start out absolutely lovely. And you sort of say to yourself in the back of your mind, how is it that, they're this old and they're not married already? Or, that they did have a relationship in the past, that maybe I'm not the first man they've ever known. And somehow it didn't work out in the past. I mean, it mustn't have been their fault. It must have been some terrible man that they were with that didn't appreciate her. And we liked it. It's not that we liked it. We just automatically fool ourselves into thinking that I just happened to be in the right place at the right time where she met me. I was lucky enough to meet her and she was lucky enough to meet me. And we're just so perfect for each other. And she's so lovely. She's so kind and she's so beautiful. And it's just my luck that she hasn't been snapped up, But I remember there was a picture of a Ferrari, and there was back in the 80s, I think it was, maybe early 90s. And there was an absolute gorgeous Californian babe sitting on the front. I was going to say the hood, but maybe it's the frunk of the Ferrari, and because the engine might be in the back, she's sitting on the front of it anyway, and lovely Californian babe in her beach gear, and the caption underneath it is some man somewhere is tired of putting up with her SH1T, no matter how good looking she is. And that's the way it is anyway. So anyway, that's the old misogyny out of the way there. So just to let any younger men know, or even men who are still as naive, have the propensity or capacity still as me even, right? I mean, I say I'll never, like George Bush, fool me, well, not 100 times. I'll say fool me 10 times and shame on you, but fool me 11 times or 12 times. And I'd want to start thinking it's my own fault, So that's the way they are. We think these are angelic figures. They're so beautiful. They're so good looking, and they're just so kind. They want to help everybody in the world. But no, it's just a job. It'll look good on their CV. Somebody told them it would look good on their CV to work for a charity. Why? I don't know. Do prospective employers kind of go, oh, great, if they've worked for a charity, then this is exactly the kind of sleeving we want in our corporation. We know they'll do anything for money, that they've got no scruples whatsoever. They've got absolutely no morals. Maybe that's why it's good on your CV. So anyway, I'll spare you the details, but inevitably, relationships deteriorate from the honeymoon period, and we had a row, and she turned on her heel and walked off in a strop. We had a bit of a blazing row in public. In the past, I didn't want to have any blazing rows on a public street. But for once, I decided, okay, no, I'll have a row, and I'll shout even louder than you on the public street. I'll engage in histrionics. And so she turned on her heel and stormed off. And I sort of said to myself, well, I'm supposed to go after her now and run after her and say, come back, let's talk about this. And I thought, well, I'm definitely not doing that then. I don't like to be predictable, and I certainly don't like to be manipulated. So I said, well, I'm definitely not doing that. So we were supposed to go to the beach. So I said, I'll go to the beach on my own then. And if she decides to calm down and she knows roughly where I'm going, if she wants to go looking for me, that's fair enough. If she doesn't, whatever. So anyway, I'm at the beach anyway. And, I'm a bit upset. But I decided I'll go up to there's a hamburger joint on the beach. And this is why I wanted to have a few photographs if I could find them. And just show you, like, this place, not too different. Like, it's not the same, but I mean, hey, it's not a million miles removed from the way, like, say, somewhere like Venice Beach and the restaurants there. You could be sitting just on the beach there, So picture a place like that in California, I mean, and similar kind of idea. I'm having a burger, and I'll just put up a couple of comments here. I may have skipped some or missed some. I better just go back a little bit. McDuck says, or Crispy Johnson says, McDuck, how did Lebanese Maronite Christian end up Mexican? And Goga McDuck says, take me back to 1994. It might have been a good year. Lily Gazoo says, there's a link to a Washington Post article about the unwelcome stares at the Quiet Clan. I know they eventually became a rich community. There are Ched Rai supermarkets. I'm not pronouncing that right. Ched or AUI supermarkets here in Mexico. Carlos Slim, richest man in Mexico, is of Lebanese heritage. Interesting. Did not know that. Wouldn't have guessed that. Owns lots of busin. I should know that word, and I'm sorry that I don't. Business and Enterprises, plus, of course, Salma Hayek. I wonder what she looks like now. He says who age is fine. Okay, yeah, Carlos, the Lebanese make business anywhere. Phoenician genes, I see. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Oh no, there's more. Good article, says Lily Gazoo, on the Tinkers. My brother lived in Augusta area 10 years. Said they were often scammers and thieves, targeted seniors and disabled especially. Yeah, scurrilous. Arranged marriages among cousins. Oh yes, definitely. That's part of the culture for sure, the arranged marriages. Makes me wished I had experienced a California burger place in the 80s. I was in California for a holiday in, I think it was in the year 2000. If it wasn't 2000, it was 1999. And I couldn't tell you like whether it was better than or not. I mean, it didn't seem dangerous to me. But I mean, look, you could be anywhere. Depends on the time, of the place, and the hour of any particular day. But it seemed like a fine place to me anyway. Keanu Reeves was born in Beirut, Lebanon. Aha, interesting. I think I'd heard that before. Shadow Mask. Right, I'll get on with my story. So I'm having a burger, but I'm feeling a bit forlorn. And I'm kind of saying that as an understatement, right? I was quite upset. Because as I say, I really felt that I was in love with this girl. But look, who knows if she ever really loved me or not. I could have been just, the way it goes, useful to her at the time, or maybe she felt that she felt something for me at the time. She certainly acted like she did, but who knows? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was forlorn, and I look up for my burger. There's a fella. He's walking along, and he talks to me, and I was sitting on my own eating, so I was happy to talk to somebody. And he says, Harry, and I said, oh, yeah, how's it going? And he says, sorry to disturb you there, I know you're eating. And like, see, he was nice. He was a decent fellow. He wasn't demanding anything. He says, I'm just selling these things. And it's the first time I've seen him. I'm sure they're everywhere in the world though these days. These kind of things like friendship bracelets, leather necklaces, seashells on string. What else? Look, the kind of thing that in California you'd get as well. Very much the same sort of stuff in the Western Cape, but anywhere really, I suppose, in South Africa. There's a big surfer culture in South Africa. So, things like sort of, you could almost say it's like costume jewelry. There's beads, but also with an African type theme. So you get these kind of woven type of braided material with beads over it, or a lot of things with twisted wire, and the wire could be like tin or copper. A lot of it's recycled as well, I said, oh yeah, sure, I said, you make these yourself? He says, yeah, myself, my wife did, So he's not begging, he's just selling these things. And a little bit down the beach, there's a sort of a car or a parking lot area, or maybe it's not exactly a parking lot, but it's a place where a lot of the time there are stalls there, and you can walk by the stalls and see what they're selling. And a lot of the stuff you could buy there as well, and on different days, particularly on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, there'd be a sort of like a fair or whatever you call it, FAIR, where, people sell things. I'm sure there's a better word than that, but you get the idea, like bric-a-brac or whatever. And so I said, oh, sure, how much are these? And he said, oh, this one is 20 rand, or I'll give it to you for 15 if you want to buy that and that or whatever. I said, yeah, no worries. I said, look, and by the way, look, to sort of put it in some context, $20 might be something like 300 rand. 300 rand might be $20. So like, when he's sort of saying, oh, that's 15, that's 20 rand, like you're talking buttons really, you know what I mean? So I said, yeah, no worries. And I said, are you collecting for somebody else, or is this for a charity? Or he said, well, it's for me really, like, And he said, but I don't like to beg. I I like to keep busy, and I like to sell something rather than just ask for charity. So I said to myself, okay, well, this guy's genuine, perfect, And I said, are you hungry at all? Like, can I get you a burger? Like, and he's like, oh, I couldn't do that, or I wouldn't be loud, or I said, listen, no worries. Like, I mean, because you didn't look scruffy or whatever, I looked more scruffy than him maybe because I was just sitting in my, beach shorts and just a t-shirt on. That was it. I mean, there is no dress code as such. I was just wearing, like probably fairly tatty Converse, and that's it. And my swimming togs basically, and a t-shirt. So I said, sit down, I'll get you a burger and chips if you want. And he was like, really, you sure you don't mind? I was like, totally don't mind. Like, I could use some company. So I got chatting to him, and he said, after a while, like, we were talking for a bit. He says, my wife's just up there. She's probably worried about me. And I'll try not to make the story too long-winded, right? I could make this much longer. Anyway, to slightly cut the story shorter, I'd finished eating. He'd finished eating. He said, my wife's up there. I said, well, look, I'm walking back that way to the beach anyway. I'll walk back with you. And he says, oh, okay, cool, And so anyway, like he was telling me, like, what his situation is. He's homeless. And he said he's living up on the beachhead, but he didn't want to tell me exactly where, in a tent. Now, again, if you can think about it, right, I've always said to myself, if I was going to be homeless, I'd want to be homeless in California or in one of the Spanish islands off the coast of Africa. I'd want to be somewhere nice and warm most of the year, especially if I'm going to be in a tent or whatever, or outside of a tent. And I guess that's the general idea. Now, he was a white guy. He was an Afrikaner, So he got a lot of hassle from the police. And I guess the reason why he didn't want to tell me exactly where he had pitched his tent is because they do get hassle from the police and they get moved on or fined or maybe even picked up and put in jail, So I don't know if Lumen is talking about something else here. The government calls itself the local mafia. Anyway, I'll cut a long story shorter anyway. I got talking to his wife. They were decent people. She told me that they were only fairly recently homeless. I can't remember the timeline, but it was months, and maybe not even a full year. Just taking a last sip of me pint of beer. That's it, really nursing that one again. And so he says, or his wife explained to me anyway that she actually used to work in either banking or insurance. And their whole story was how basically they kind of, a bit like, it's not just because of the last 3 years. I mean, this is before the pandemic, that I knew something was coming down the pike, that society was already broken, and I guess they did too. And whatever job she was in, and it might have been up north in Johannesburg or something like that, or even further up north in KwaZulu-Natal province, they decided to come down to Western Cape to try and have a nicer sort of standard of living. But things would be a bit more expensive, I suppose, or harder to find somewhere cheap, that's not in a real bad area, of course. But again, how do you ever know if somebody's telling you the truth or not? But here's what they told me anyway, that they had been subletting their apartment or their home, and they didn't know that they were subletting, and that the person they were paying every month was not passing the money on to the actual landlord, so that they got evicted. And they didn't have any savings, and that's sort of the blah 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 bit, which I don't quite get, how somebody doesn't have any savings, or doesn't have a plan or a contingency. And so I'm glad we've already mentioned sort of slightly mental problems. What I didn't realize was, and see, some people can be decent and you don't notice that they're slightly off kilter. And I think he might have had a motorcycle accident at one point, or something had happened to him where he had a brain injury. Some people call it I think a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, some kind of impact to the brain. And I think it might have affected either some portion of his memory, or, it might just affect your personality some way. So I think that was perhaps a factor in whatever had happened to them. But they seemed like genuine people to me. And so I got to know them, and I spent the evening with them. And I said, look, I've got to eat anyway. I went back to my car and I changed into my trousers and put a shirt on. And I said, look, I want to have an evening meal anyway. I said, I enjoy your company. Let's go and have a meal. It's on me, no problem. I mean, these people weren't, like they weren't unhygienic, they weren't scruffy. Do you know what I mean? Um, so it wouldn't have been, they weren't smelly. It wouldn't have been a problem to bring them into a restaurant. In fact, we went to a restaurant and the people knew them and thought they were lovely people and were very sort of happy to see them there. Oh, it's great to see you again. How have you been? This kind of thing, Now, again, maybe some of you might think, oh, that's a bad sign. Look, I don't know, but it all seemed genuine to me. And we had a lovely evening and with a couple of sensible drinks. None of us got drunk. And so we parted company, but kept in touch. And I got to know them, I think, a bit more then over the course of the next few days. I think we arranged to meet again, or meet again the next day. So I sort of said to them, look, after a while, I felt like we were friends. And I said, right, well, I want to help you. I mean, how much would it cost you to get a deposit? I mean, what would it take to get you into home again, get you out of that tent? Because during the day, the next day anyway, the fella had to go back to his tent to make sure either thieves hadn't found it, or whatever. You can understand if everything you own is in a tent, either the police will take it or thieves will take it. So I wanted to do something permanent. I didn't want to just sort of say, well, here's money for a deposit on your new place where you can rent, or here's money for your first, month's rent or whatever. I wanted to find a permanent solution. Because they sort of said that they've been looking for a while, but they didn't have internet access either, because that would be another expense. And she only had an old phone anyway, not something that had a smartphone tablet. You understand what I'm saying? So they were at a disadvantage when it came to looking for a place to rent, And really, they were asking me like if I knew anybody, any of my friends who knew someone they could trust that they could rent a place from them, because again, it's about not just can you trust the people who are going to be tenants of you, but is there going to be a reputable landlord as well, So, none of my friends knew of anywhere that was vacant or whatever, but they said they'd keep an ear out. And then it occurred to me, okay, so myself and my girlfriend hadn't been speaking to each other for a couple of days. So I just decided I would ring her up and I'd say, look, forget about you and me for the moment. Fine, we've had a row, okay? But the way I see it is, it's a bit like, if you have family or whatever, if you have brothers or sisters, you might fall out. But if there's a common enemy, you would put whatever disputes you had to the side for the moment, put them to one side, and you would deal with whatever problems at hand. In the same way, supposing if you went hiking with your girlfriend and you had a row and you would, I don't want to see you anymore. And then she turns around and she walks off and falls down a cliff and she's hanging off the side of a cliff. You would go and rescue her. You'd give her a hand and pull her up. You wouldn't go, oh no, we're not speaking now, or I demand an apology before I help you. You know what I mean? So I figured, look, this is more important than that. So I sort of said, look, you work for a charity, and her charity was to help the homeless. That specifically was what the charity was about. So I sort of said, I know that you've told me about the charity. I know that you've told me that I just distracted there with a comment, and I'll put it up on screen there, TBI, so it is traumatic brain injury survivor here. He says, I'm 45 and I have memory problems amongst other issues. Basically, I've got CTE. I can't think what CTE stands for, but maybe it's another variation of that kind of an idea, according to my doctor, even though they can't determine this 100% until after death. Right, because they have to do an autopsy in your brain, I tell you, which wouldn't be convenient right now while you're still planning on living. So anyway, I said to her on the phone, can you just, okay, fine, you want to have a bit of a scream at me or whatever, or tell me how much you hate me, but can we just put that to one side for now? And I want to tell you about these people. And I told her what I told you, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, but more or less tried to tell her, these are decent people. They seem to be a genuine case of being down on their luck. They just need a hand up, a helping hand. Can you help them to find some accommodation? Because they have got recently hassle from the police. And they've been told they'll be sent to court or, charged with vagrancy or something, or illegal camping or whatever it might be. something like that, if they're caught again by the same police with a tent on some beachy headland. Big Tommy says, by the way, I'm not looking for sympathy. It will be okay. Each day is a new day pushing forward. I know that. And I admire you for it. You know, that you're not wallowing in pity. I get that. I know that. So I got the sense from her anyway that she was going to reluctantly help me. But she sort of said, all right. Well, where are they? And I said, I told them what, like, so in Cape Town, obviously, like in any city, there's suburbs and areas and districts and whatever. And I suppose there's no point in saying whatever district they're in, but I sort of said, they're in this area here. And she went, oh, well, that's not one of my areas. That's not one of our areas. That's not us. And I sort of said, like, okay, well, what? I said, well, look, maybe I said, what charity then is covering that? Oh, I don't know. You'd have to look that up. And I thought, oh, okay, fine. She's still basically in a snot with me, in other words, in a huff, or feeling ill-disposed to help me, like, and I thought, typical, like, it wouldn't matter what her emergency was and how much aggrieved I felt towards her for whatever she had done to me. I would still help her and anyone she knew if she called me looking for help, and it just never goes the other way, does it? I think you'll understand what I mean by that. It's along the lines of hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but they're capable of such kindness and such spite, and they will, if they can't maybe direct the spite directly at you or make you suffer, they certainly are quite happy or callous enough to allow anybody else to suffer. They don't seem to be, or most people don't seem to be able to separate those things and sort of say, well, look, I dislike him, but I'll put that aside for now. I think you know what I mean. And I could have got angry about it, but I knew that's not going to help anything if I shout at her and tell her how dare she not feel concern and compassion for these people's plight. So I said to her, look, thinking about it and trying to be rational. Of course, that's a silly thing, isn't it? Always looking for rationality or logic in a world that does not run on logic. I said, look, she says, what's their address? I said, they're homeless. Like, I said, like, where do you want them to be homeless? What area of your charity, tell me, of the city or of the greater Cape Town area, does your charity cover them? And then she didn't want to tell me, oh, well, mostly in the central area and there's few districts outside, but, mostly in the CBD, the central business district, blah, 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 And I said, oh, okay. Well, then I said they could be homeless anywhere. So I can bring them into the city centre. I can even bring them into your office. Oh, no, we'd never see anybody directly. Oh, no, we would never interview people directly. We wouldn't have them in because, I mean, she told me all this wonderful stuff about how they deal with all the drug addicts and they help them get off drugs, and that they've built a garden area for them in the city centre so that they can give these homeless drug addict people, once they get them off drugs, and they can come into the garden, and it gives them some sense of purpose and usefulness to help them get back into society, to rehabilitate them by working in the garden. It all sounded so lovely. So I said, well, I thought you said you had all these homeless people that you interacted with on a daily basis. All these people you helped get off drugs that were in your garden there in the city, whether it was a roof garden or a parkland or whatever you had there outside your charity offices. So I said, you're telling me you've never actually met any of these people now? Because I think at this stage I knew she just, when she wouldn't tell me what area she covered. So I said, what areas do you cover? And we'll go to that area. They'll pitch their tent there maybe. And then maybe you can get them on the books. Oh, no, well, we wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that, And she's the administrator of this charity. So then I began to realize, oh, okay, I see. And this is part of giving the benefit of the doubt to people in a way that you don't even realize you've been giving people the benefit of the doubt. It just sort of goes without, not only goes without saying, it goes without thinking. We just tend to assume all these things about people, and charities. We just assume that they're looking after all these homeless. So if they don't look after these kind of people who, and I said, I'm pretty sure, and I've spoken to them now for a while, that they're not on drugs, and they aren't on drugs, and they never have been on drugs, and they're just literally down on their luck. They just need a small helping hand. You don't have to cure them of any addictions. You don't have to sort of make sure that they don't have any mental problems where they trash a place, you know. They're looking for a place to stay, a roof over their head. They'd be grateful. They'd be happy to pay rent every month. You know, they earn a certain amount of money for the things that they make. And she was like, no, then that wouldn't really be what we do. That's not really our area. You see, they need people with problems. They need drug addicts. And I think we're all starting to realize that now about our world. And as JC reminded me about the Masons, they like crime. It can bring down the value of certain areas, just like if you divert water away from what would be fertile land and make it dry desert land. Well, that brings down the area of the value of the land then, so that area maybe could be bought. So, you know, charities who deal in homelessness or drug addiction, well, that's their product. They wouldn't want to get rid of their product, or that's their customers. They wouldn't want their customer base to dry up. So they're not interested in actually helping people like you, like me, and like many others now who maybe at one point were middle class people, you know, who did work in offices but knew that there was something wrong. And sort of said, I can't in good conscience be part of this society anymore. It's all a sham. See, the whole thing is a sham. That's what I'm getting at. So I'm sorry to say that I probably continued going out with this girl for a few months after that, maybe even a half a year or more, you know, thinking, oh, you know, still, it must be still something wrong with my perceptions. But, and the other thing I will say about it is, like, to sort of be fair to this girl, is that I think that, you know, as well as people's capacity for fooling others, there seems to be, in as much as they say, you know the way Einstein is supposed to have said, you know, there's only two things that are infinite in this universe, maybe the size of the universe and the, maybe I'm butchering the quote now, and the scale of the universe and the capacity for human stupidity, but also for self-delusion. So I guess, like, you know, to be fair, in inverted commas, to this girl, what I'm saying is that she maybe was able to do what I recognize in a lot of people, in that there's some kind of auto ego-driven self-delusion going on, where she, on some level, genuinely believes that she's helping people and she's a good person because she works for a charity. She's helping defeat homelessness. Just like in the West, we've thought, oh, you know, we're helping alleviate or cure hunger, cure cancer. We've been curing cancer for generations now, and defeating hunger in Africa and elsewhere for generations. It's an industry. Why would they get rid of their most precious resource? The homeless and the hunger and the hungry. So, you know, any product that sounds like, oh, well, people are only homeless because of, you know, some problem with subletting, and they can travel with you, and they're not addicted to drugs, and that's not really our product. It's not really something we're interested in, you know. It's like going into a pawnbroker and saying, well, I've got this artwork here, and they go, nah, that wouldn't sell. We're not into that, you know. Has to be something very popular, or has to be something that can be melted down into base metal, or, you know, not into base metal, into spot metal, I should say, you know, if it's gold or silver, you know, that sort of stuff. So there's something along those lines, and I was disgusted by that. But I'll say at the same time is why I probably kept going out with her for a few months afterwards, after we, you know, made up. Although I would have never got an apology from her. Is that I was engaging in self-delusion as well, that I must somehow be perceiving things wrong. You know, now there's more to that story, and I'll leave maybe a little bit more of that story to tell another time, but I'll more or less wrap it up now, and I'll read the comments, and I'll say Happy New Year to you, for what it's worth, a perfunctory New Year to you. So Goku McDuck there says to Big Dummy, I wish you the best, and Big Dummy says thank you to Goku McDuck. And Crime Carnet said, Goku, crime cartels here in Mexico seem to have psychic powers or somehow read, check into media. So no, I am not bulletproof. I'm not sure the context of that. I'll just read it out anyway. Damn, man, if it is so bad, can you move elsewhere? He says, or Lumen says to Goku McDuck. Well, he's in Mexico. Look, everywhere is bad. And as I say, I would move to Mexico if I could. I know there's a fellow, I enjoy watching his videos, but I think he might be closer to somewhere nice like Acapulco. Max Egan, his channel is called The Crow House, and he was removed from YouTube, but he is on Odysee and BitChute and maybe Rumble. But I watch it on Odysee anyway, although I don't know if that's his primary platform these days. I don't know for sure. The Crow House. So Goku McDuck says, oh yeah, no, he said that. I recently had to for far less, so I had to move within the US. Sadly, no. Sadly, well, maybe for now, my friend. Okay, I thought the Lebanese controlled crime cartels worldwide, McDuck. Says Crispy Johnson. Is that a joke? A typical cringe joke, says Crispy. For TBI, a variety of magnesium types can help. I would say so, and that's good advice, I would guess, Lily. And I don't think that you would ever say something like that unless you knew what you were talking about. Yeah, and the brain, just like the human body, is quite remarkable in that it can, it seems, relearn or rewire how to do certain things. Sorry, relearn how to do certain things by rewiring some portion of itself. So it can auto-repair. I already told Eternal, says Goku McDuck, that I work inside the Mexican public education. I'd forgotten that, so it's worth repeating, which itself is a mafia. Okay. Big Dummy says, yes, the purpose is a wonderful thing for... Oh, sorry. Big Dummy says, purpose, or having a purpose, is a wonderful thing for recovering addicts. That being said, there are many different recovery programs other than 12-step programs. One size doesn't fit all. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's something we can talk about another time as well. I don't know what you mean by Nintendo, but anyway, Goku McDuck says, Nintendo fooled me once by placing Minecraft Steve in Smash. Oh, maybe he does literally mean Nintendo. Second, by not fixing my Switch. There will not be a third. Okay. What is Nintendo? I guess he is referring to that, mobile and games console company and video game company. Yes, Gesara is just a myth, Gesara. I forget what it stands for, but it's to do with some kind of Mexican and North American financial union, roughly. Is that it? Sounds like bringing democracy to the Middle East, says Shadow Mask. Makeup sex is da best, says Crispy Johnson. So that's probably in my story about, reconciling with my girlfriend at the time there in South Africa. Big Dummy says, yes, many addicts that are receiving help get help, in inverted commas, he says, get taken advantage of if they have insurance. Many recovery centers, he says, in inverted commas, see money, the pot. Yeah, there was no money in these people. It was a raw material. I was thinking the word raw material. So if they're mining gold, that wasn't the kind of ore they were looking for. And she knew it. I had a feeling it was along those lines, and you've put it in more precise terms there, Big Dummy. Thank you. Look into the Florida rehab scams. It's all a scam, and it's all to get their suckers into the government funding, isn't it? So Goku McDuck says, nope, Acapulco is not safe. I'm not surprised to hear it's not safe, but I'd say that there's areas of it that are nice, even though, yes, I totally understand that it's not safe. Stephen Crumley says, Happy New Year to y'all from Southeast Tennessee. Hope you guys are having a great evening. And likewise, Stephen, and it's good to see you here. And I'll begrudgingly wish you a Happy New Year. Not because I don't want to wish you a Happy New Year, but because I don't want any of us to be satisfied with the New Year. I want us all to be extremely dissatisfied. And I don't want us, I'll be quite frank about this, I do not want us to become accustomed to whatever it is that they throw at us. I want us to be extremely displeased with whatever is coming down the pike that's going to be blamed on China or Russia or Ukraine or whatever. I want us to be extremely laser focused on the object of our dissatisfaction, which is really our own governments and the people in control of them. Crispy Johnson says neuroplasticity. Exactly. The thing, by the way, that the guy who recently went totally insane, what's his name? Sam. Oh God, I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was claiming to be a scientist who was, specializing in neuroplasticity. He's an every single timer. Can't believe I forgot his surname now. Somebody might put up in the comments there, but he was the guy who sort of said, I don't care what was on Hunter Biden's laptop. He could have been having all these children in his basement. It's not as bad as Trump and his Trump University. I don't care about Biden and Burisma and Ukraine and all that. I'm talking fast and loose, haven't I? Sam, good God, I can't remember, but neuroplasticity. I used to appreciate hearing what you have to say about that, but not no more. Happy New Year, Stephen says, American Patriot. Happy New Year to you. Okay, well, Big Dummy there says, please disregard the pat at the end of the previous post. Fair enough. I don't think it... I got the sense of whatever it was, that you meant anyway. Happy New Year, says Lily Kazoo. It should be interesting. Oh, it'll be interesting. And I think there is thing coming down the pike. I'm hearing noises like that they are. It seems like they're going to try and have, a sequel to what we've had, The Convids. And this time it's personal. So maybe that's what we'll have in 2023, as well as more threats of nuclear war and ramping up of evil Putin and shankety clankety. Except that maybe a shankety clankety in Russian. May you be blessed to live in interesting times. It's that Chinese curse, or what is it? No, it's not a Chinese curse. Russian curse? German? No. Forget who said that. But it's like a blessing curse. Thanks, Orleman. And Crispy says, Lily, and he's saying it in Irish, Cunas a thought to a nocht. So that's more or less, how are you tonight? Lily likes, I think, sort of Celtic or Irish or Gaelic culture enough to perhaps, I wouldn't be surprised if she's learned a few words, a couple fuck all, as they say in Irish. Few words. That's what that means, although it sounds like an English curse word. Dr. Crispy Johnson, neuroplasticity is real. Yes. It is possible in many cases. And let's see, it takes effort. Big Dummy, but that's just its name. Sort of read wrong there. Hell yeah, says Goku McDuck. We need to be dissatisfied. Like Doomcock says, stay angry. Absolutely. Stay frosty, stay angry, stay dissatisfied, stay curmudgeonly. And I would say keep the sort of acrid taste in your mouth simmering. Barely below the boil. Ungovernable, says Lily Kazoo. Thank you. Perfect. Sam Harris, Shadow Mask, spot on. That's the guy I meant about the neuroplasticity. Before he went totally insane. Cheers, Crispy. You got there as well. Stephen Crumley says, you too, American Patriot. Got any wild plans? I'm working on my garage door. Lol. Sam Harris's mom made the shows Soap and the Golden Girls. Interesting. Very interesting. So she was in the media. In the entertainment media. Lol, says Lily Kazoo. Excellent live stream, EE. Thanks, Big Dummy. I want to wish everyone here all the best moving forward. I had a wonderful time. It was nice to meet new people here as well. Cheers. I really appreciate that, Big Dummy. And I hope that you do make a not exactly documentary, I suppose. I don't expect you to do a full documentary, but video on the travelers that might be in your state or around your city. And American Patriot says, I'm currently making bread. Fair play to you. Wow. And planning a kayaking trip down the Ohio River. Fair play to you. Good man. That sounds like a great thing. And I'd say kayaking would be a great way to get around if there is a significant collapse in society. Stay vigilant, says Big Dummy. And gets a thumbs up there from Jesus is Luke Skywalker. Happy New Year, all you bigots. Yes, I'm an incorrigible bigot, and Happy New Year to all you deplorable, incorrigible. I'll say bigots, but however you identify, maybe you identify as a sexist or a racist or a misogynist, or you're just part of that community. And if you are part of that community, it's a very marginalized community, and nobody has it harder than we do. But we don't play the violin for ourselves too much. I don't mean to be speaking for ourselves too much, but I'll say myself, I'm a member of the sexist, racist, misogynist community, and there's probably more to it than that as well. We're very inclusive of all people, of all persuasions, but we don't really shed a tear for ourselves too much. We're stoic like that, I think. We like to have a bit of a stiff upper lip about the whole thing. We don't go crying looking for government money. Or Lumen says, sadly, I cannot wish you or anyone a happy new year. I would regret adding to the feeling that we should be satisfied or happy with our situation. Well, that's exactly what I've been saying. So I wish you or Lumen a perfunctory new year, right? Just have a new year, assuming that reports that there will be one are not exaggerated. So look, I'll finish it up now. Last few comments here. Big Dummy says, kayaking is awesome. I love it and get out as much as I can. I think that's something that I would like to do as well. I'd actually say Anakin Skywalker is more in line with Jesus. He's referring to Luke Skywalker is Jesus, is the fella's name there. Whichever. But I'd say that he is that motif, or he is that archetype, rather. I identify as a doctor. And I tell you what, Dr. Crispy Johnson. I don't know why, but it's the way that reads, Dr. Crispy Johnson. It cracks me up. Just the name. I don't know what it is, what the backstory is. Maybe next time you'll tell us, but I just think it's brilliant. It cracks me up. Lily says, all of my grandparents came from Ireland. Okay, fair enough. 2 of them spoke Gaelic. I took classes at the Irish Arts Centre in Manhattan. Fair play to you. It's woke now. Happy New Year. The Irish Arts Centre in Manhattan is woke now. I would talk about Irish more. I met a girl I was in Irish college during one summer myself, and there was an Irish girl from, rather a Californian girl there, but like she had Irish parents, probably, or grandparents, and they sent her there, and she was kind of miserable. But because she didn't know how to speak Irish, and we weren't allowed to speak English, and a lot of the girls were mean to her. But I was nice to her, and she appreciated that, and she sent me some postcards when she went home. But I never wrote back to her. I felt real bad about that, but of course that was back when I was a teenager. Nothing I can do about it now. But I always felt bad that I was too lazy to write back to her. Dr. Crispy says, I thought I saw you in another stream and presumed you are Irish, Lily. Oh, fair enough. Well, I don't know if Lily has been on another stream. But interesting to know that she has grandparents who are Irish. So small wonder anyway that she has some affinity, at least, and knowledge of the language and the culture. For whatever's left of it, anyway. Shadow Mask says, I have a community post on the topic. Oh, with regard to Jesus being either Anakin or Luke Skywalker. So that'll be in his, if you go to his channel and look in the community tab. Stephen Crumley says, I live about 10 minutes from where the Olympics were held in 1996. I see. I'm trying to think, where were the Olympics in 96? I can't remember. And I know you said where you were. I cannot remember where that was in 96. 84 was Los Angeles, as far as I remember. And I'm thinking, when was Seoul in Korea? Was that 92? I don't know. We have the OCE River, Oc-Oe River here to kayak, and it's brutal in some places. Very fun, but physically demanding. I'm trying to remember, are you in the US, Stephen Crumley, or elsewhere? I'm sorry I forgot it. You probably mentioned it there earlier, and I just forgot. Red hair and freckles, Crispy says Lily Kazoo. Sounds great. Very rare, actually, even in Ireland. Apparently, it's only less than 5% of Irish actually have red hair. Most of my family ended up in Australia through transportation to Van Diemen's Land. As far as I know, isn't that called Tanzania now? Says Jesus is Luke Skywalker. For stealing a piece of bread, right? Yeah, that kind of thing did happen. Any excuse to say, right, we're going to populate or send them down there to work. And curly teeth. Ah, yes, the curly teeth. Montreal, says Dr. Crispy Johnson. Oh. That's where he's from. Okay. And I'm guessing, anyway. Atlanta. Oh, I'm so sorry for yes. Okay, that does make sense now. Goka McDuck, Atlanta 96. Thank you. And thanks, Stephen. The Olympics were centered in Atlanta, and I just shows my ignorance there of geography. That name in Tennessee, Ocoee, Osoe. I can't. Ocoee, Osoe. I don't know it. First time I remember reading that or hearing that. Goku says, really, Eternal, I suggested to read the chats where you told your story, but where I said that it was missed. All right. Well, look, I'm sorry anyway that that doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me, but sorry if I've missed out on something there, if I skipped over something. I did my best there. I'll tell you what, it's a nice complaint to have that the comments are coming through fast enough that I am maybe missing some. And look, the other thing you got to remember is if I did miss some posts or some comments that you made, it may not be pushing all the ones through from YouTube. You know, the way in YouTube there's a choice between live in the live chat or there's just top chat or whatever it is. So maybe it doesn't pass through all the comments, just in case there's some you thought I should have read out but didn't see. Shadow says, are you really Irish Eternal? Maybe you are a Russian spy or a Chinese spy. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm half Russian and half Chinese. Write that down, says the FBI. Write that down. Ocoee, thank you, says Stephen Crumley. You nailed it. Well, okay. It's a hard C then. Thanks a million. Ocoee. Okay, then says go. Look, I think we're all right. As long as whatever I did there or forgot to say or didn't say or should have said a different way, that I haven't ruined anything too much. So I will finish it up there. I think I'm keeping it under the 3 hours. It might even be close to the 2.5 hour mark. And I think there's more in this, definitely more to talk about with regard to charity. And I'll try and sort out my sound issues and play a few videos, for example. And there's maybe there's enough material to have a part 2 with regard to charity, whether it's at home or internationally. Thanks everybody for listening. It's coming into 2023 now, and for what it's worth, I hope at least that we will be fortunate and that we will have good luck, and I hope that we will have strength of character to meet whatever it is that they send our way, and I hope we fight the good fight. Here's the last comment from Lily Gazoo. One of my parents had to leave Ireland. Problem with the law. One cousin made good. Pittsburgh Labour priest, writer, marched with Martin Luther King, Monsignor eventually. Well, a lot of families had checkered pasts, and of course, maybe I said path because I was thinking of the path out of whatever home country they were from or old country. Maybe people emigrated for a variety of reasons, and maybe evading the law was one of them. But time heals everything, doesn't it? And it sort of excuses everything. A lot of crimes of the past become moot. They even become honorable things with the passage of time. All right. Thanks, Lily. Appreciate that. I just had a little issue there at the beginning, maybe, with my mic being overamped for whatever reason on this particular machine. And I shared a video and the sound just didn't come through. But other than that, it was pretty good. And as far as the sound went, obviously, then you're telling me, and that's great. And it was honestly very appreciated that you guys were all talking in the chat, and thanks for being there. Okay, without further ado, I'll end the stream now, and until next time, goodbye and thanks again.